I had wholesome Texas values, and you're just a dirty little California fornicator.
Matt, did you know about this?
You live in Texas, Delano?
No.
Oh, he's closed.
No, Gigi, this is a bombshell to me. In fact, this may be the biggest bombshell yet.
Yeah.
I think it's a bombshell for all of us, right?
No, Matt.
Everyone except John. Everybody except John.
No, but Matthew, honestly, like, does this come? Are you surprised by this? Like, this isn't weird. Like, what truly do you think?
Well, I can't say that I'm surprised, because out of all the saints, this John would be the one I could see actually doing this.
Are you married in your heart, John? Do you think you're married in the eyes of God or something?
Yeah, he's spiritually married.
Did he say that?
He said that
No.
he said that the carnal knowledge they had counted as a union under the eyes of God.
What?
Bro, I'm married to so many women. I'm so married.
Bro, John, come on, dude. You're not serious, right? John.
We're all married at this point, then.
Well, John, is she monogamous
this has got to be a
too?
troll, right?
John, is she
monogamous? You're kidding us, right, John? John, you're fucking kidding us, right?
John, has she remained?
Oh no, you got us, John. You know.
Does your church know?
He doesn't have a church.
Yeah, he doesn't go to church.
Well, not according to him. According to him, he's a member of a church.
Yeah, he's
he goes once every like 4 months or something.
What?
Yeah.
He spends so much time on Clubhouse this whole day. Why does he need to go to church? I mean, he can talk to more atheists.
He never told them. He never told.
John, the church knows, right, John? John, the church knows, right, John?
Just silent.
We're gonna need a panel.
No over talking. No interruptions.
Yeah, he says
just sounds broken.
Yeah, they wouldn't even
No,
care.
John, the church knows, right, John?
The church
John, the church knows, right?
Well, they will if Tom Rabbit posts this online. Maybe someone can get it to them.
Are your parents prejudiced against white people or something? Like, did they not want you to get interracially married?
It's hard to have a full ceremony in a Prius. That's really hard to do.
Yeah, I'm not buying this one until.
You're not buying it.
I don't
What do you
believe
mean not buying it? He admitted it.
I'm not buying it. I bet you $100 that he's laughing as he's muted right now.
Well, that's what I said. I asked Delano. I said, "Is the source reliable?" Because like this is something that could have been planted, right? So he could laugh, right?
No. If you go back and check the replay
but I
and
think
listen
it's
to his
true.
reply, it was like, "Oh fuck, I just need to lean into it."
Oh, you talking about me?
John, you're a fornicator, bro. You're a filthy, dirty fornicator. All that holier than thou attitude and like talking about people being degenerate and you know this and that and like thumbing your nose at these fucking atheists and their sexual degeneracy. You're the biggest fornicator of all.
Yeah, like Jane and I were married, are better Christians than you, and we're atheists.
Oh wow, that hits hard.
His wife might hold a position that.
My guy actually tried to say no. They are his first line of defense was, no, we are legally married, common law married, and then the girls, the little detectives Jane and Haiti, quickly did some googling. There's no common law marriage in California, so he can't even say that.
Whoops!
Oh my god.
Can we play Red Hot Chili Peppers right
Holy
now?
fuck, dude.
I have a question for Caleb.
He's appealing to laws that don't even exist in his state.
Well, that fornicator.
Oh my god.
Fornicator switch on his God phone is green, Tom. That thing is switched fully off.
So my question for Caleb on this subject is, Caleb, John has indicated several times you're not a real Christian, you're in heresy, but yet here you are, you're
That would be
writing
false,
books
James.
for the gospel, you're digging into your faith. How do you feel with all these revelations from baby R to not married, and he's criticizing you?
I'm not going to try to act like I'm better than John. Okay, I'm not going to go that as easy as a route that would be to take. I'm not going to do that, even though I think that there is some stuff there that should be repented of and that he should discount. I'm not going to try to act like. Do I think he's hypocritical for saying that? Yes, but that doesn't therefore make me
Caleb,
not.
may I ask, are you married? If I may ask?
No, I'm not.
Are you shacking up with some woman and like defiling her on the regular, like John is?
No, not on the regular. No, I'm not.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Although if John can get a woman, that does make me feel more confident in terms of like, wow.
James,
Easy.
when you got with your then girlfriend all those years ago, did it ever occur to you that you could just shack up with her? I think the right thing to do was marrying her.
Well, I wanted to marry my wife. I wasn't
You wanted
very,
to marry her, yeah.
I wasn't very active in the church. I made a comment to her dad because she hated me, or he hated me. I said, if I didn't love your daughter, I was just fine paying child support, but because I love her, I'm marrying her.
Dang. Ouch.
And the way you expressed that love was by marrying her. Thank you, James.
So, James,
Yes.
what you're saying is that if the condition of love is true, then marriage, right? John's not married. So what does that say about the condition of love, according to you?
Wait, what the fuck? What?
I don't want to say that he doesn't.
Jovan, I don't know. Have you just arrived? Have you just arrived?
Yeah. What did you just say?
There's a bombshell that has been dropped, and that bombshell is that John Lee is not actually married. He has a girlfriend, and he's just calling her his wife, and that's been the case for 19 years. He's a fucking fornicator, Jovan.
He's been defiling this.
But also, who dates a girl for 19 years? Surprised he hasn't proposed in 19 years. I don't know why you wouldn't.
Wait.
He said he was common law married to her.
He's verbatim said my wife multiple times.
Over and over, many times.
Yeah.
John, is this true? Are you troll? John, you there, buddy?
It's got to be a troll. It's got to be.
How do we know he doesn't have a wife? Did he just like say it?
Can you clip it, Tom?
I mean,
yeah, he admitted it.
He admitted it, right?
Oh my god!
There was a tip that Delano caught, and he just came out and admitted it.
So he's been soiling this woman for the last 19 years.
Fornicating,
yeah, fornicating.
Yeah, with his like Shibaru and all that other like degenerate shit he does. Yeah, all under.
Bro, didn't he just say to us? Didn't he just say to us that Christian, if these people aren't enacting God's will, if they're not in line with God, then you know they're not Christians?
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Oh my god.
So we can know John Lee's not a Christian now, right?
No. No, John, he didn't say that. No, he didn't say that, did he? He wouldn't have said that.
He definitely said almost verbatim that.
No, come on.
All the chicken bones and fingers sucking, that's just all degeneracy now. Just, it wasn't even in like
What is
love.
the Shibaru stuff that I understand what it is. What was the context he brought that up in? Was this
He's not married. Oh,
he likes
my
to jerk
God.
off to that, Caleb.
Oh, does he really? Oh, okay.
I think you guys might be getting trolled. How did this originally come up?
It's got to be a troll.
There was a tip. Delano asked John to confirm, and he said, I refer to wife.
But wait, what was the tip?
I guess
I don't disclose DMs in public.
Wait, what, Don?
We have an informant.
I don't even think it doesn't matter if it's a troll either, God Lewis, because then he's just outright lying to our faces too, which is just as bad as not having a wife. I would assume.
I don't
Not
know. You
marrying
guys,
this woman.
no, the difference is that you guys are his victims, right?
But yeah, we'd all be
He's not
victims.
supposed to lie. He isn't
We're
supposed to lie.
victims
He's
to
a
the like
Christian.
thousands of times he's lied to us by saying wife.
That's fine. He's a sinner and stuff, but
Yeah,
you guys
okay.
would still be his victim.
You're saying like, okay, this if that. Okay, like I don't really care. Right? If he's trolling and he gets
You
to me
don't
by
care if you're his
lying.
victim?
Yeah, I mean, if he trolls me and like, you know, it's true that he actually is married, then and he lied to troll us, then like shoulder shrug, you know.
Well, a lot of stuff makes sense now, right?
Oh my God.
Carlos, this is the guy who said he wouldn't lie to the Nazis to save Jews, right? So
He
I
also
think we
wouldn't
take
do it.
Wait, but that
He also
fixes
wouldn't do
that,
it to
right?
save his wife. Yeah, because he
No,
said
I'm
it's
just,
not really his
I'm
wife.
actually, I do think he's trolling, and I'm actually really impressed with John Lee now because he's just gonna get so much attention. I think
No,
you're,
but
I
he
No,
think
he's
you're
not
right.
said
trolling. He
I
had
would
an
God is the
immediate
Son.
I would
recoil and
be
response.
I would be on Godless's side too, but that line about him, the carnal knowledge thing being a union, he said that like flippantly of other things for months. And I always thought it was kind of weird that he was always on this like one flesh that they're become union, like that's when they become married is when they carnally know each other. He said this many times, and I always thought it was kind of weird that he always harped on it. So that makes me a little hesitant to say that this is a big troll because it
Okay.
does tie together.
Okay, here's the evidence we have, right? Delano gets a tip. Delano asks John Lee. John Lee confirms that it's true. John Lee is asked if this is okay to talk about. John Lee says he doesn't care. Next, somebody's Moto says that as recently as a few years ago, there's a Facebook post John Lee made where it says feeding the homeless with my girlfriend. Right? That was a few years ago.
I've seen it.
Right? John Lee then recounts a story about a recent family gathering in which a member of her side of the family pulls him aside and says, you should marry her, right? John Lee throughout this has been confirming. I mean, so yeah, you put that all together. Yeah, I think it's pretty clear that it's real, right? I think it's pretty clear that
What's
it's real.
what's his Facebook status?
Oh my God.
Well,
It
that was
doesn't
another
say
thing.
married. It doesn't say married.
Mo said that he saw, because he's been friends with him on Facebook for years, and said that he remembers there being a post from 2019 where he was giving out like sandwiches to the homeless, and he said he was doing it with his girlfriend.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well,
I've seen that one.
Facebook
I've
says
seen
it doesn't say married.
hold on a second. No, I did see that post, but I haven't been friends on Facebook with him.
Hey,
But
what?
I did,
You mean
it
you
was
just
fun.
look now?
No, I don't remember when I saw it. Maybe a month or two ago.
Why didn't you say anything?
Well, I didn't think it mattered. I mean, he could have got
You
married
don't
in
think
the
it
last couple of
matters?
years.
He's been married for like a long time, right? I mean, I bet we've even asked him, how long have you been married? I bet somebody asked him that question and he lied right to our goddamn face.
No, I guarantee you he answered with something like, I've been with her X years. That's probably how he answered.
That's still a lie of omission.
Oh, it's certainly a lie. It's certainly a lie. But I guarantee you he justified it to himself in some way.
If you say if they say how long you've been married, you say I've been with her, then that's implying that you are married, unless you specify, oh, we're not married or we're dating. Yeah,
Exactly.
right. It's like, oh, I didn't mean married. Why would you think I meant married? Even though the context of the questions literally demands it. Like, come on.
Oh my God, this is
He
insane.
refers to her as his wife, like
all the
routinely, all the time. That is who she is. That's who we thought she was.
So Jovan, you're also missing. So
Oh my gosh, hey guys, does he file jointly? Do you file jointly, John?
Well, I think
Are you lying on your taxes? No, because there's no common law. They aren't legally married.
file separately, but that's not uncommon, even if you're married. So.
Well, I'm just saying. I bet that. John, do you guys file
well, I don't want
jointly?
to get into that unless he really offers it up. But
Well, I just mean that it'd be a real big fraud then, because he'd be doing tax fraud.
No, you can't fraud the IRS. The IRS, they want to know that you're married, right? They look at your social security number and all that stuff. So I don't think you can defraud the IRS by saying you're married when you're not.
But Jovan, originally, I don't know if you heard this part. Stop me if you did, but he tried to say that no, he is actually married legally. He's common law married legally. And then the girls, Jane and Katie,
wait a minute.
They looked up common law
Is that right?
marriage in California, and it doesn't exist.
No such thing. It's not a legal thing.
So he said, "Yes, I am married. It's a common law marriage."
That's correct.
Well, that's what
that
I think. I guess that's how he thinks of it. But that's
A
not
common law
actually a legal
marriage in a
thing.
place where common law doesn't exist.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Biblically,
that
it's
was
common
his
law,
very
but not
first
legally.
In fact, I
reaction.
don't think common law marriage exists pretty much anywhere. This is a very old notion.
No, in
Now
Wisconsin it does.
They call it like cohabitation.
No,
or
no, no.
something
It's
like
like
that.
it's a legal status. A lot of states have common law marriage. It depends on the length. Some of it's 7 years, some of it's 10 years, some of it's 3 years of cohabitation.
Yeah, there's like
correction. Correction. The post was from 2014. You guys, sorry.
So you still shack up with them for the first 7 years. You're still living in sin.
Yeah,
for
yeah,
7
yeah.
years, even if there's a common law marriage.
Why would God not exist?
Oh my God, dude, this is
This is the biggest
pretty
news.
crazy.
This
I'm
is
like
mind-blowing.
shaking with how much of like joy I have.
Just
Right now.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
People,
The holier than thou attitude this entire time, as if he were like well within the bounds of the sanctity of marriage, when he was a fornicator the entire time.
Who was a
David
fornicator?
Wee.
Delano, man of the year.
I think David Wee at least is engaged. It was all some bullshit about that he couldn't do it before COVID and all that stuff, right? David Wee will eventually get married. This motherfucker.
Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life.
I'm actually
All right,
curious,
hold on a second.
John.
I gotta clean up
why
some
did
of this. Who is this? Who is this guy interrupting? Just like with the stupid Bible stuff. All right, let's try, like, for the time being, let's try to be a little bit more discriminating who we're bringing up here. Let's just not bring up anybody, okay, please? This is gonna get out of hand. This is silly.
This is so interesting, man. John, so why wouldn't John just get married? He's got money, right?
Okay,
He's got money.
I have an answer for that question too, because I asked him that question too. I said, "What's the explanation that you're not married in 20 years?" His answer, I never really thought about it.
Oh my God, the post does. Oh no!
I never really thought about it.
What the fuck?
All those times he was sleeping with his wife in sin, it never occurred to him, hey, maybe we should stop being sinful and get married. Not
John,
once, John.
Are you just nervous eating right now? Are you just stubbing your face with Burger King? Is that why you've gone silent, John?
Burger King's closed. No, he's just sitting there.
Not on the West Coast, it's not.
He's been silent basically since this started. He's really upset.
Yeah, he's like
hoping me
making
that
up tasks for himself to do. Like he's got a full iced tea. They took 2 sips. He's like, "Oh, I need another refill, but got to go back inside. Can't talk right
be
now."
in and out instead of Burger King anyway.
Oh, this calls into question everything he says about like some of the trauma that he's been through.
Converse, are you following all of this right now?
He was homeless.
Yeah, what was it? John's not really married or something?
Yeah, he's been living
that's
with her
right.
for 19 years, referring to her as his wife, and isn't married.
Wow. Well, the part that Tom just said was that he never thought about it. Can we honestly believe that he never thought about it once, or maybe that she
This
never
is a
brought
straight
it
up
up?
lie. Anybody who would even
how would
like
your wife
entertain that is just. I mean, they're
Converse, how would your wife feel if you were dating for that
The
long?
crazy thing is he thinks that's a better answer, right? He thinks that's a better answer of, oh, I just thought about it, than saying, yeah, I thought about it, but there was like these practical issues. Maybe she didn't want to get married.
Yeah,
Nothing along
imagine,
those.
imagine being his friend, just being like, man, you guys been together like 10 years. Like, when did you get married? And he was just like, you know what? That's a good question. I never even considered it.
Like, oh wait, marriage? What?
Now, if you were a filthy atheist heathen, then yeah, I can see someone like that just not really thinking about it, not really entertaining that these, carnal activities that we're routinely engaging in, they're not kosher outside of the sanctity of marriage, right? I can see.
I actually don't even believe that, Tom. I don't even think that an atheist could escape the cultural pressures of marriage, right? From a woman who's been in those cultures her entire life, right? It's had to come up. There's no way in hell. 20 years these two have been together.
I can, of course it came out.
Even if they're like complete atheists, it's like one of them's going to say to the other, "Hey, what do you think about marriage?" One of them is.
I've never seen John Lee shut down like he has right now. He's almost always got some kind of defense to try and spin. He'll start up the spin room, the spin machine. Try equivocating. He tried that with the common law thing. That crashed and burned almost in these girls were on it within I'm gonna say it was like 10 seconds later. Within 10 seconds, they had the Google search, they had the answer, they were reading it off to him, right? He just dropped it. He just dropped it. All they could resort to is I consider her my wife. That's all he has left, which is nothing.
I consider her my wife. Yeah, John, I consider my girlfriend my wife, so it's good to fuck her, right?
Yeah, by this logic, you could go to Vegas right now, pick up 3 girls, and consider them all your wives, and everything's good.
Yeah, they're my wives, man.
Yeah.
Well, how did this revelation come out? Was it John volunteering information? Or was it...
There was an anonymous tip. John was asked. John confirmed it. John was asked whether there's any problems talking about it. He said whatever. He doesn't care. And that's it.
Apparently there's some post from 10 years ago about him referencing his girlfriend too. And he's supposedly been married for 20 years.
Wow. John, I've never heard you this quiet, man. You've always got something to say, right?
The amount of lies this man has told us in the course of this is insane. Just think about how many times this man must have lied to people about his wife.
Yeah.
Well, even when John was talking, his voice sounded feeble. As soon as it happened, he was broken.
Just think about this. John hears the knock at the door with these big-ass German people saying they want to rip this 12-year-old from his basement and take him away. And all he has to do is say, "Oh, no, sir, she's not there." And he would not make that lie. But if you ask him if he has a wife, he will say yes.
You won't lie to save the
What
Jews.
the fuck is this, man?
Lie to us on Clubhouse for no other reason than to avoid this kind of conversation.
That's the best part too. It was just so it could. That's how you know he thought about it too. That's how you know he thought about it.
He knows we're gonna call him a fornicator. He doesn't want to deal with that shit, right?
Oh my god!
What kind of Christian doesn't marry the woman he's with?
Just wait till Matt Adams gets a hold of this, man.
Oh,
he
heard it.
He
heard it.
What'd he say? What'd he say?
He didn't care. He was acting.
He was almost speechless, and then
trying to.
You could tell that Matt Adams was trying to process it. He wasn't saying much, and then he left. Yeah, man. I was like, can you still be a saint and a fornicator going on 20 years? Can you still be a saint and be a fornicator that long?
You're not even regenerate, for crying out loud. You're living in sin. Hey,
I'm starting to.
Converse, weigh in, please. We want to hear Christians talk.
Well, I'm just wondering if he is actually married, but just not to her, and they can't
Oh
get
shit!
like there might be a reason they can get married or something. I
That
don't know.
No,
I
he
agree.
said. Apparently, he said that he just considers her his wife, and he even tried to say, "Well, it was common law marriage," even though there's no common law marriage in that state.
Are you shocked, Congress?
No, Converse actually raises a good point, because these are the things that like John preys on these types of assumptions. And so like you really have to ask him questions that seem obvious, but John is counting on them to be assumed.
Yeah, that's right.
So Converse raises a good point. That would be a question to ask. John, are you or your wife legally married to, or sorry, your air quotes wife, meaning your concubine, are you or her legally married to anyone?
He wrote in chat, "I'm counting on reckless speculation." John, you're not getting away from this one, buddy.
Yeah. He's actually in like full retreat mode. That's fine. But
Well, I
wow.
see Caleb's in. Did they have it out or?
Here comes a
Oh,
wild
Caleb.
speculation for you, John. Here's what it is, right? So his wife. I'm gonna leave that alone. I'm gonna leave that one alone for now. Actually,
Wow.
his wife doesn't deserve anything from John. This is so mean of John, man. This woman has been living in sin for 20 years because John Lee's been having sex with her without marrying her.
Oh, here's Jimmy Stevens. Maybe he wants to know. I'm inviting you up, Jimmy. But if not, we'll just tell you and you can listen.
We need to get all the theists on Clubhouse in here now. Every last one to hear their opinion about this.
Jimmy Stevens, John Lee is not married to the woman he calls his wife. He's been shacking up with her for 20 years. We just found out.
Which one's Jimmy Stevens?
Surprised, really.
Satan.
I mean, there's a certain amount of surprise, but at the same time, like, it just sounds like something that was going to unfold in this saga anyway.
It does sound like,
I would not have predicted this in a million years. Not in a this like Calvinist, self-righteous, Bible thumping dude is not married.
Well,
when
I
he's
think
having sex with.
Well, on the bright side, we figured out why he doesn't go to church.
He didn't even tell his elders. He let them think he's married.
Wait, what?
He didn't.
Well, that's speculating.
tell
We don't
his
have
elders.
confirmation on that.
No, I asked him. He said no. He said it never came up.
Oh my God, he's misleading the elders of the church. Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was saying. Because if you go to church, questions get asked. So
I thought you had to do a whole like thing to become a member. You had to like be in good standing and not, you know. Would they not have asked on the form if he was married?
The thing is, you can just like go to the courthouse and like sign some documents and be getting married. You don't even have to have a ceremony or anything.
I would have accepted a church wedding. Like maybe he's got some like weird political views. Who cares? But he could have been married like by a pastor at a church, you know, taking the vows before God. He didn't do that.
This is the guy who says that if you are regenerate, you will have like a desire to like follow God's commands and things like that. Unbelievable.
Well,
unbelievable.
Knowing that John sits out in his car all day, every day, he might be celibate, and so it might not be a problem. I don't know. But that.
All those times that you practice the forbidden carnal art of shibaru or whatever the hell it is, which for those who aren't aware of is the ornate tying up of your partner for sexual gratification. Every time you did that, you were doing it as a bastard sinner, John Lee. A filthy fornicator in the eyes of God.
Hey, John.
Oh, no music, no music, no music.
No, but it's put a ring on it.
Oh, it's on a. Oh, my bad. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, you should have played Californication by.
Unbelievable.
What else is he lying about? Who's going to lie about this? I mean, if you're lying about
knows
this,
how to party.
he's
You liked it, John. You should have put a ring on it.
Yeah.
Put a ring on it, man.
Well, this is one of the first times.
Wait.
This is one of the. He's gone into full shutdown mode. Full shutdown. I've never seen him.
Danny,
he's never done something like this where he goes completely silent. This is odd. Something's going on.
Yeah, normally there's a quip, there's a snipe, there's something. No,
Some kind of spin. It's like, oh well, in a sense, I am married. He already tried that, failed, and he's like, you know what? Fuck this one. This one's pretty bad. I'm just gonna
this one's a lost cause, man.
Yeah, this one's not worth. This one's a goner.
Is he strategizing? What is he doing?
Danny, are you there? I guess he can't talk.
Come on, John Lee. Come on, man.
Well,
John Lee also has this other strategy he uses. It's something like he'll just, in the face of like an accurate criticism, what he'll do is he'll just like mute up and he'll try to just like not say anything and not correct anything so that like people speculate more and more and more, and eventually people will speculate incorrectly. Then later on what John Lee does is come in and he'll like tear down all the incorrect speculations as to like kind of like invalidate the whole endeavor as a whole, right? That's a tactic he does. He's actually trying to do that right now. He's trying to do that right now. But
are you there?
You there, Johnny? You there?
Holy shit.
Come out of your shell, Johnny. Come on, Johnny.
Unbelievable. I can't.
It's like he's playing dead.
We're all just sitting there poking him with a stick, and he's just laying there pretending to be dead.
He's curled up into a ball.
Wow. Unbelievable.
Getting caught in the common law lie was just as bad.
I mean, John, by your beliefs, this is so strange, man. I mean, it's not that strange, to be honest. It just like confirms a lot. But you understand you're damning your wife to hell, right, John? You understand that? Your wife in air quotes. I mean, I guess he doesn't have a choice in his view.
Look, it's his girlfriend, right? It's not his wife. She doesn't have that honorific.
Maybe this is why John's like so hardcore about people can't do the good, because he can't do the good.
He just posted a YouTube clip to the Beyonce song. Put a ring on it.
I played.
Do you think this is a joke? You think this is funny that you're unrepentantly in sin? Is this why he thinks he's elect, so he can just do whatever the hell he wants and get forgiven?
That's pretty much all Calvinists, yeah.
Yeah, but they're not supposed to actually do whatever they want. They're not. This would prove that they're not actually elect, right? Because the Holy Spirit is supposed to be telling them to do the right thing, and they want to do the right thing.
Yeah, and when you
think after 20 years
they do the right thing on their own, right? Because their spirit has been regenerated, right?
Maybe John wants to say that he don't need the law or something on his side.
Yeah, but then he didn't even get married in a church. He didn't
the fact
say
that
vows.
a woman has lasted this long by his side.
I'm actually curious if John have we asked John about like what's required for a marriage or anything and for God?
the one flesh, blah blah
I wonder
blah.
if this.
Yeah, because
I
he.
wonder. I wonder if this has anything to do with. Because remember when he's asked about kids, why he never had kids, his answer is always just like, it just never really happened, or it's just some sort of like very like aloof, sort of like nebulous, like shoulder shrug type answer. I mean, and it's the case that probably.
Well, I never really thought about it.
She might be okay with like not getting married for so long, but is she really gonna be okay with having kids out of wedlock? That seems like a
Well,
stretch, right?
I think she wanted kids, but it was just she was a little too old. But it could have happened, but it didn't. It sounded like she was open to it.
But they've been together
So
20
he would have
years, though.
had a bastard.
Yeah, John would have been 34 at the time.
Yeah, that's plenty of time.
Yeah, that's how old I am. So
maybe they were waiting to get married, though.
I gotta tell you, I don't even think it's. I thought it was more like 8 or 9 years. I don't know where this 20 years came from.
No, he said that
John,
they've
can you
been
just
quote married for 19 years. So going on.
John, why don't you just be straight with us? Just answer this. Can you just answer
He's
directly?
terrified.
Like,
He's got nothing to fall back on. He can't actually defend himself in this situation.
This is
Right.
horrible.
Jovan, there's your first mistake. Asking for a straight answer from John
yeah,
is like
yeah, I know.
ridiculous.
His own holy book, his own holy God. In his own God's eyes, he knows he's a bastard sinner, right? And all
I'm curious what the other Christians.
All of this holier than thou attitude bullshit, right, is just gonna be like, bro, you got a freaking plank in your own eye you might want to take care of, dude.
I'm actually curious what the other Christians think about like the prerequisites for marriage or something. Like, do you guys think that John's like marriage to his wife is legitimate if he just like exclaims he's married to her and she exclaims he's married to him?
Oh my God, Californication.
Just to any of the Christians in the
really
room.
Good. That's really good.
I mean,
oh, John just said Haiti is correct. I guess it hasn't been 20.
Unbelievable.
Well, I don't know. I guess it just depends on who you ask, really. But I mean, I take it that if they're members at a church, that they're supposed to be married. If not by that pastor, but in a church at least, I would say. But I mean, there's this whole thing about like, well, what about people who like never had a church to go to? So
right, that's all I was questioning.
Yeah, but I mean,
he was in a church, though. He's a member.
Well, I mean, there is the thing about like the qualification for the pastor in the pastoral epistles is like you got to be a married man and blah blah blah. Like I think it's to show like your commitment not only to your wife but to like the community kind of thing. So I'm not sure, but I thought about it like this too. And like it's either one of two things: either John and his wife have some reason why, or his girlfriend have some reason why they've been together for 19 years, they can't separate, or John's doing something right, holding her for 19 years without marriage. Because I mean, I just after 2 years, my wife's like interested in marriage. So yeah, I don't know if he's doing something right or if they're inseparable.
Because he's not doing anything right in the eyes of the Lord.
This is just insane.
The thing is, like, if they were both, I don't know, man. This is just so strange. Like, the only way I can see, I'm not even gonna really say it, give John the ways out, but I mean, there is like ways out for John in this, but I don't think I don't think he can use them now, given his first responses of the common law and stuff, right? That's clearly him just scrambling, trying to find anything, right? When he mentions the common law stuff, because I mean, obviously there was no like actual common, like even he should have known that, right? He was. I don't even know if. I wonder if John actually knew that there was no common law marriage in there.
I don't think so.
This is just.
It'd be hard to say you didn't know if it's literally a Google search away. Like it took him 5 seconds.
Well, never underestimate John's ability to be wrong about something that's extremely easy to know.
John is not talking because he saw what happened with David Wee.
Unbelievable, man.
I think he feels guilty, and it's just like I don't know what to say at this point. At least that's why I
No,
like it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
he's just called
absolutely.
out. He's called.
Absolutely.
David, we would try and preach to us. We would point out that he's a fornicator.
Yeah. John's a fornicator, dude.
Fornicator.
Yeah, this guy's going online telling atheists how they're sinners and they need to repent and this and that. And meanwhile, like, he goes home with his concubine and is trying to learn new knots so they can like Shibaru Inu together. You know, it's like, oh, I learned a new knot. Like, well, let's try it out tonight. I mean, just like ridiculous, John. Just ridiculous. You know, you talk about having a plank in your eye. You got like a whole like load of logs in your eye.
Mal, did you hear this? You on stage.
Huh?
Unbelievable.
Mark.
So fun telling you people who don't know. It's like
Yeah.
Christmas. Milk.
Did you guys ping his buddy Johnny in here yet?
I messaged Johnny. Mal, John Lee is not married.
Huh?
Did you hear me?
What? He's not married?
He's not married.
What?
He's not married. He's living in sin.
Oh. Wow, that changes a lot. He says wife a lot for somebody not married, right?
Yeah, that's my reaction. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's right.
So he calls her a wife because does he intend to stop sinning anytime soon, or is this
No?
Because they seem old, is what I was
He
thinking.
just considers her his wife.
Like Ken Hovind? Ken Hovind did this like 4 times.
Well, he never thought about getting married.
Apparently, Tom asked him.
Wait, what?
Tom asked him, like, why didn't you get married? And his response was, oh, I never thought about it.
That's what my atheist partner and I are not doing, is getting married. And we're
Yeah,
atheists.
but even you guys probably thought about it, right? Even
we discussed it. Yeah, we discussed it for sure.
Yeah, but you're an atheist heathen, though. That's the explanation.
I know.
Yeah.
God,
I mean, that makes
John
sense.
Lee
right?
is one of the elect, and he knows that he's elect, and his wife knows that she's elect. They mutually both know that respectively each one of them is elect, and they're regenerate. And that regenerate nature is reflective in how they live their lives, right?
But
psych, they're filthy fornicators.
I was gonna say, sounds like fornication to me.
They've been doing the dirty outside of wedlock.
This is horrible. Oh, this is changes everything, John Lee. There's like a special place in hell for this kind of lying, right?
But then
Like-
get this, he was confronted, and then he said that he was in a common law relationship, even though common law it doesn't happen in California. Like, they don't have common law there.
Don't they? He's like a spiritual guy, though. Shouldn't he have to do this marriage stuff in front of like a
I mean, you'd think.
I don't know. This is wild to me
I
to get
think
married
they
in the first place.
I think they just jumped to the consummation part of it.
Oh, wait.
Yeah, they skipped the unimportant parts. They skipped all those.
Wait, that sounds like sinning to me, but I don't know.
Yeah, but you're not one of the elect.
This is true.
Wow.
For all I know,
I wonder if it's
not
just like some
getting
kind of
married.
OCD thing. I mean, that's got to be some kind of dumb like thing that he just can't psychologically overcome, right? I mean, that's probably the best explanation. Because there is a reason, right? There is a reason.
It could be her. You don't know. Could be her. Didn't want to.
It could. All right, here's a
don't
crazy reckless speculation, right? So, given that John Lee was lying about his wife, I'm speculating that John Lee lied about a lot of other things he's told us to, including him stopping the nefarious deeds that he's been implementing or doing in his life, right? So, what most likely is the case is that John actually can't legally get married because John's a fugitive. John is actually on the run. That's why he's always in his Prius, right? That's why he can't actually ever go home, right? Because if he goes home, they'll be able to find him, right? So he can't ever go home. And why is John Lee now going back to work? Well, he's actually never actually stopped working, right? He's always been still doing his little illegal shit, right? He's just been telling us this to avoid debating Tom. It all makes sense.
Does
It's
he
all
even have, like, we found out he doesn't have a birth certificate. Does he have a driver's license? Does he have a passport? Is he like a real person? Is that why he didn't get married?
John Lee's not
He
even
had
real.
no ID?
There's no
Does he have
John Lee.
Does he have ID?
Wait, is it experimental AI? Is that what we've come to, or?
I just think he might be like one of those, types who doesn't have any ID, doesn't lives off
Just
the
wait till Johnny Haas
business
hears
grid.
about this. Just wait
I
till
know. Johnny
Silver
Haas is
Star
gonna
hears
die.
about this. Wow.
Bro, if Johnny went off about
Doesn't
brain,
have any
just
ID.
think about it. If Johnny Haas went off about brains in a vat, if he doesn't go off about John Lee not being married and telling him that he's had a wife all this time, oh my god, these guys are just like
Funny
completely
though is that
inconsistent.
this makes it funnier when Johnny Haas is like, "Could you be wrong about your wife existing?" And he's like, "No." What, John's wife existing? Because she isn't.
Yeah, he can't be wrong about
Oh my
that.
God, we have to
This
tell
whole time.
Andrew. Andrew's gonna have a field day.
Oh, I hopped into Andrew's room and told him, and then hopped out. So he
What?
Oh,
How
you
was?
piece
What
of
was his
shit! Why would you
reaction?
do that?
Oh,
You
come
don't
on.
even know you
This
got
is-
a
I'm trying to
wife?
get him in the room.
What was his reaction?
He was like, "Well, I said you're missing the drama with John Lee." He's like, "Oh no, not John Lee." He's like, "Yeah, he's not even married, by the way." He's like, "Oh no, gosh," he's having a different convo, so he'll probably come in later or watch the replay.
That does sound like him. Oh
He's
no,
like, "I'm not really
gosh!
surprised, but oh my gosh, really?"
Aw, gee,
That
really?
kind of reaction.
Golly.
Well,
Yeah,
you guys,
golly.
this is the craziest thing, is like Matt and Johnny are probably closest to John, right? And I figure that really Matt would be the one that's really more like outraged than anybody because he has like these like really close traditional things like that. But I think that John will actually be more worried about you guys telling Silver Star, the guy that doesn't like him at all, than Matt and Johnny. You know what I mean by that?
Oh really?
Yeah, he like cares more about Silver Star's opinion than the people that actually like him for some reason. It's weird.
I think that
Well,
actually does hold some water.
Matt and Johnny, they still have like look, there's still a relationship there, and that relationship allows for some buffer, right? Now with Silver Star, there is zero buffer, right? When Silver Star comes after John Lee, it's just gonna go straight to the core, right? So it's
Yeah.
Yeah, but what I mean by that is like, when Silver Star really is just laying into John, giving him all this crap, and then John will be like not really reacting in a way like he's mad. He's just like, that's not exactly. But when Matt gets on him, like he'll like turn on Matt and be like, okay, you want to debate this, Matt? Let's do a room tomorrow, whatever. I think it's because they both went to the. John says that he went to the same university as Silver Star.
well,
and they
that's
have,
because
like, this
John thinks
thing.
that Matt's a white belt, though. So of course he's willing to like oh look, you actually want to go at me? Come at me, bro. Yeah, of course he thinks he's a white belt.
What do you think Matt Slick would say about this if he knew John Lee well?
Oh, he'd
in
be all
general.
over his ass. Johnny Haas.
He'd probably
was
say,
really...
what's that term you're using? Marriage? I've never heard that term in 40 years. Can you define it for me, please? Yeah, sure, Matt. Yeah.
I'm sad Jack isn't here.
Do you remember
Jack
when
would
Johnny?
have loved this.
Do you remember when John Lee was not paying Tom the $100, and Johnny Haas went off over and over and over with scripture about how it's wrong to not pay your debts? Imagine what he's going to think about living in sin for this long.
Fornicating for 20 years.
20 years of fornication. No intention of fixing it spiritually, right?
I mean, he's done enough Shibaru Inu to fucking know more knowledge of ropes and knots than a professional deckhand, right? That's how much fornication and sinning this guy has fucking done, right?
Is the fact that he says he hasn't considered marriage just showing that like it didn't occur to him that it was even not only did he not feel guilty about it, didn't even occur to him that it was a sin, like it didn't even cross his mind in terms of like,
Well, to be fair to him, he sees it as common law. That's why he didn't see it as a problem. But in his state, it is not common law. It's not.
Well, I think
illegal.
it's
not legally, and it's
that's a
All he would have to
retroactive
do is get the certificate
justification
signed,
after the
or
fact,
just go
right?
to, even if it's not legally, just go to your pastor and have them pronounce you man and wife. About it being like even just spiritual, like that's all you'd have to do.
Yeah, because the reason that doesn't work, BB, is because now that if that were true, now that it's the case that's been brought to his attention, that's not a thing where he's at, right, in California. He's not actually come. If your theory is true, then that would then prompt him to get married. But we all know that that's not going to change anything, right? So it was just some kind
James,
of
are you there?
justification after the fact.
James is tired. Either.
Yes, I'm so distraught that I am playing Mario right now and sitting in silence.
How do you feel about this whole thing, James?
Oh, Andrew's here now.
I think
Oh
it's
my goodness.
I think it's just something that I didn't expect. I just didn't see it coming, especially after lecturing atheists about sexual immorality.
Right?
Oh my god.
Danny's here. Hey, Danny, what's up,
I
buddy?
was gonna make a bad joke about that, James, but I'll stop it. That was good.
Hypocrisy is palpable.
Danny, you there, buddy?
Yeah, what's going on?
We're just chilling, man, and we found out some news about our boy John today.
What is it? What is that?
Well, you see, somebody got a tip about John, and even found a Facebook post referring to John referring to his wife as his girlfriend. So they asked him directly, "Hey, John, are you married to your wife?" And John said no, he's not actually married.
Oh, is it like common law marriage or
Nope.
whatever?
That's what he tried to say, but there is no common law marriage in California. John is literally not married to his wife, to his girlfriend.
Is he married in the eyes of God then?
He has not had any church wedding or anything like that.
Isn't that wild, Danny?
I guess so. I mean, my grandmother was in the same way. She was married and not really. She called her husband.
Yeah, I'm gonna need you to change your tone here, Danny.
But doesn't that make it arbitrary? Like you could just hook up with any random person on Tinder and be like, oh, we're married now. If you don't need to have a certificate, you don't need to have even a religious ceremony. It's literally just, okay, I declare under God's eyes that we're married now. Is that all you need?
Well, if you had your girlfriend for like 25 years, whatever, it's marriage to me.
All right, we're gonna have to move Danny down. He's bumming us out.
Yeah, but
Yeah, this is
John,
not the reaction we're going for here.
Danny,
Val.
you're an atheist though, Danny. That's, I mean, like, marriage to you isn't really relevant when we're talking about marriage in the eyes of God, right?
I mean, yeah, I'm an atheist though, but I mean, like, what is it that you need to sign a piece of paper and then you can use the terms?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
Well, it's not just a paper, Danny. It's about, like, don't you feel like if you're a Christian that there's going to be some religious ceremony necessary?
Spiritual union, you might call it.
If you don't mind, I have to say something real quick because I do think it's relevant.
Go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys. So one thing is he could have had a common law marriage in a different state and then moved to California. That's one thing. But the other thing is it doesn't really, biblically, there's not a mandate to have a.
Kidding me?
Hold on.
Are you
hold on,
kidding me?
hold on.
All these Christians are like, oh no, as long as you're having sex with them, you're married to them.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Kidding me?
No, that's not what I'm saying. Well, if you can point to a scripture, Haiti, that says otherwise, I'm open to it. But if you have a commitment to the other person, and I think there should be other people present for accountability, but I do not think that you need to have a paper from the government. I
agree with that.
Hey, Andrew,
But-
can you tell me what? Hey, Andrew, can you tell me what fornication is, please?
Yeah, well, it has many meanings, but it's not clear. It's not clear. It depends on the context.
Oh no,
But-
you don't know.
No.
Andrew, when Jesus asked the woman at the well, she says, "You've been with five.
Right,
You've had
yeah.
5 husbands, and you're
Right.
with is not
Yeah.
your husband."
Yeah.
What does he mean by that?
That she had serial marriages, multiple husbands.
And then he said you've had 4 husbands,
Yeah, yeah.
and the man with
Oh,
currently is
now
not your
she's
husband. So
married to
what?
them all because she had sex
Yeah,
with
no,
them.
no, no. And I agree with you, Caleb, because I don't think there was a commitment there. But I don't know what that looks like biblically because it's not
If I have a
set.
girlfriend and we're
This is
sleeping around and not officially married, how is that any different than what you're saying?
Well, because I think there has to be. I mean, it's like Steve Gregg says. If you say you are my wife and she said you are my husband, and it's a vow to each other, I think that seals the deal. So I don't think
any
But it's
two
not a vow.
people, any two people who are living
about.
together, who are monogamous, are de facto married. That's your view.
No, I
Yeah, 'cause,
think that
Andrew, it sounds like so if me and my girlfriend, this is like crazy. So that means like any girlfriend I get with, I can just refer to her as my wife, and she can. And I just have her refer to me as her husband, and we're good. We're Gucci.
no. If I'm saying you have to make a vow to each other, I'm trying to
Yeah,
understand
we
what.
can do that as long as we
They
just.
didn't.
Yeah, I don't think they did, but let's say
Yeah.
I'm like curious about Andrew's like criteria right now because like if I just vow to my girlfriend, hey, I want to be committed to you, blah blah blah, for as long as we're together, blah blah blah, and stuff like that. I mean, is that are we married now?
Yeah, I think so, and I'd be interested to hear what Caleb thinks on the flip side
But
because
Andrew, what about? But John said that he didn't even consider marriage. Like it's not even like a thought that occurred to him.
Yeah,
well,
Like
that's
he's like,
that's different. If you're doing this kind of just like let's just we're just hooking up and I don't really have any intention of anything long term and whatever, that's just kind of whatever. Yeah, I think that's a problem. And if that's what he's doing or has done, well, bigger problem is he's lied about it. To me, is that he said that he's married and he's not, or
should
if
have
he said
he could have at least clarified what he like that he didn't mean literally like legally married, like
if
which is
that's
what
what
everyone
right.
thinks
'Cause I
you.
think when he's right, that's what I mean. I mean, he's trying to put across the idea to everyone, hey, we're legally married, because I don't think he's thinking of marriage in the way that I am. So I think that the way
But everyone else, but he knows that everyone else is not thinking
that's
of
what I
marriage
mean.
in that way.
That's what I mean, Caleb. I agree. So I think that is a problem. And yeah, for those that think the view that I'm taking is just bizarre, I mean, we can talk about that more. But I'm just saying,
So if he
I'm
was
just
at,
saying,
so if you're, so if your church, if you had a
It's
couple at your church that was
absolutely
living together and we're not married, but like, but like we're dedicated to each other and we're like wanting to be together, would you consider that legitimate, or would you talk to them about it and
yeah,
say, hey,
I would, and I would ask you, Caleb, what would be the difference? So what? So we're going to have a date. We're all going to get together. We're going to have other people present, which I already said. I think that is important to
John
have.
did not do?
Right, but I'm just saying no. This is what I'm saying. The flip side of it would be from a perspective of somebody that thinks you need a ceremony. Let's just try to see what the symmetry breaker is. You're gonna have a date where you're gonna get together and you're gonna be under an altar, walk through the altar. You're gonna go through all the the vows there, and there's gonna be other people there, right? And then you're gonna get a certificate from the courthouse, and that makes you married. What part of that makes you married? Having
How
it
about
passed.
It's
saying
the
your
actual vow.
vows before
I
Yeah, it's
agree.
God
the certificate
in
is
front
the
of
vow. The
in
certificate
front
is
of
a
an
legally
ordained
binding document.
minister? How
Well,
about
then
that?
Caleb,
But
what'd you
Andrew,
say?
okay, so what's the difference between you and I just agreeing to something word of mouth versus us signing a contract? One of them is legally binding. One of them has more repercussions if you break it than my
Yeah,
word
this
versus.
a
That's
copy.
the
This opens up a lot, Caleb, and I think we definitely talk about this. But when people sign a contract with the state, there's certain entailments of that some people do not want to accept, and I think they have good moral grounds not to. And I don't think that they're biblically required to. And so I'm just trying to understand why that would be something that you would think is necessary. And we could talk about that, but I don't think that having the
This is a little
state
bit
be
getting a little sus. Andrew, are you legally married?
I'm not.
Okay, so this is the explanation, right?
But you're also single. But you're also not
Do you
in
have a
a
girlfriend,
relationship.
Andrew?
Is that
I
right?
do.
And you're fucking, right?
Oh, this is the explanation.
Wait,
I
No,
mean, it's
but
obvious, right?
but
It's obvious, right?
wait.
yeah, it's
Can
not.
we?
But that's not,
Can I ask
not
that, or is it?
why.
But
But that's
wait, can
not
I?
why.
Wait, can
Why
I
did
ask
you
that
say?
though?
So a
Well,
little
I just
bit.
want
Or is it
to
too
say
personal?
both of my brothers. I don't want to like docs here, but I don't think either of them, and I want to confirm with this, but I don't think either of them are legally married. And there's reasons for that. I mean, we can talk about that more, but when you talk about like homeschooling or pulling your kids out of public school or doing things like that, I think there's implications when you have
What are we
a
talking about
certificate
now,
from the
bro?
state.
You're
Oh my god, I
you're
feel so dirty.
fornicating.
I feel so dirty around all these fornicators, man. Oh my god.
Andrew, what they're asking you is if you are having sex outside of marriage, and if you say yes, then you're probably being honest, and then they're also going to assume that's why you're defending John Lee.
Yeah, so I don't want to
Just
answer.
like John Lee.
Yeah, I don't want to answer that. But what I am going to say is this. I don't think that there's a moral issue with what I'm saying. I don't want to say that it is a problem for someone to make a vow, whether I'm single or not. I'm just telling you, I don't see an issue with somebody telling somebody, hey, I'm committed to you forever. Okay.
Wait,
And somebody says,
I got John Lee's argument. Okay, it's from 1 Corinthians 7. Okay, this is John Lee's argument. It actually says something like, it's in 1 Corinthians. Paul says that if you're married, from now on, those who have wives should live as if they had none. Those who mourn as if they did not, and so forth. He says, uh, as if they were not those who had things. I would like you to be free from concern. An unmarried man is concerned with the Lord's affairs and how he can please the Lord. So John is just so committed to this routine convicting he does on your guys' hearts every day, that it would be a burden on him to not serve the Lord by being on here every day as if he were married. You see?
Oh, I see.
What would y'all? So okay, yeah, y'all got him on the Christian thing, I think. But what would y'all say if he just said, "I see myself as married"? I mean, it's like, to me, it's like the transgender thing. I don't.
He sees himself as married under what framework? Under the Christian framework, that would seem like bullshit. If he just sees himself as in a framework similar to us, like an atheist heathen framework, then yeah, we wouldn't really give a fuck.
Well,
The atheist could just be married at that point.
Think about transgender men. They're legally female, right? Like, it might be even legally female. Okay, so, and their female is not even necessarily a sex term, right? On the birth certificate, I think it's very well a gendered term. And I mean, okay, yeah, so they're not legally female or male or whatever, right? I mean, the point is that they might be expressing some kind of commitment, or that's basically functionally what people that are legally married are engaged with.
But the question at that point, though, Danny, is how do we, like, when someone has I'm just saying generally with any belief, if someone has a delusion, it means that they have a belief that does not match reality, right? And so in order to do this, you have to establish criteria in reality and then see if your beliefs match that. So if we have criteria to define what something is, and you say, and you think that that's what it is and you're wrong, then that would be delusional in any context. So in John's case, if he says, I am married and marriage is in fact something that is outside of that, then that would not count.
I'm just saying that, first of all, I'm not saying John didn't lie. I'm not saying that John isn't fucked under Christianity. All I'm saying is that if I were John, I would just double down and say, yeah, I'm still married. I'm just not in the legal sense. And then just express
what he said.
Even in the
Well,
Christian
then in
sense,
what
he didn't even have a
sense?
ceremony.
He
Like, at
said
what point
that
does a vow? How do you know when you like? It's like that awkward moment when you're like, when are you dating? Is it just when you say it? Is it like, oh, we're like kind of like, what's that moment? And at least with
he
marriage,
said
it's either a ceremony or a piece of paper, like
no,
to
no, no,
say
no, no.
we
He
have
said
made a
carnal.
commitment.
He said that they got married as soon as they knew each other carnally. That
So it
was the
was sex. So
union.
sex is the
Mm-hmm.
non-arbitrary thing. Then
Wait,
yeah.
I've got John's argument again because Paul says something really strange in this one liner where he says, "Why sleep with the prostitute? Don't you not know that you're going to be married to her?"
Yep.
And it's like a real weird, one liner that he says.
Well, it's not just a one line. In Genesis, it says something like something about being joined to somebody by as they become one flesh. It talks about Adam and Eve being married, even though there was no ceremony. There was no legal law. There was no law to abide by, right? So, I mean, there's technically ways, but I mean, look. The weird thing is, clearly, it seems like clearly that in the context of the culture today, that Christian probably would be the only way to get married would be to make it official through some ceremony or something, right? Because I don't know, because if you're gonna make it this way, then I mean, I've been married to how many women? We've had are we saying that all these atheists that are having sex outside of marriage, but as long as they've had this one woman and they're doing it with this one woman, that they're married and it's all fine, that they're not fornicators?
Well, look, I like I said, he's fucked under Christianity, and I think you can make a good case that he might have been deceptive. But there's a certain functional sense of marriage, right? There's the way couples engage when they're married, the way they treat each other, the way they see each other, the way they understand their commitment, and I just, that could just match.
Yeah, but
someone
nobody's
that's-
really even talking about that, right? If you're just talking about like functionally when they're married, then yeah. But unfortunately, John is under the system of Christianity, Danny. And all he's really saying is all he really has is I consider myself to be married, right? I consider her my wife. And he's just really making a statement about how he identifies, right? I mean, that's just as valid as him, identifying as an attack helicopter, according to him, right?
Yeah, well,
oh my god, this is actually
that. If he pulls that, I'm fine as long as he concedes with the transgender cases. Then I really don't care.
But he's not going to do that, though. That's the problem.
Then you should
Yeah,
get him.
I think we're at least being consistent with denying both the trans and the marriage thing. So at
Right.
least we're going to call it marriage.
Now I'm seeing a huge
Okay,
issue with
so-
this. Now, Silas actually, hold one second before I lose this. Silas actually just pointed this out in chat. Does this mean that according to John's marriage definition, a rapist is married to a victim? This is actually going to be true, right? If the definition of marriage is going to be like the joining of flesh, and the joining of flesh is sex, then I don't see how a rapist isn't going to be married to the victim. If that's the case, right, if we're going to take what Paul said to be true, that they actually got married to the prostitute when there was no commitment there, right? Then if that's the case, then wouldn't the victim of the rape now be committing adultery and be sinning when she goes and has sex with her boyfriend, who she's committed to?
Well, there's two different senses, right? I think the biggest issue for John is going to be his reformed faith, because he's going to want to follow all the covenants and stuff of like the Calvinists follow, and they're pretty dang strict on their.
But it's also hypocritical because if he's going to say who is and isn't a Christian, at that point, can't anyone who identifies as a Christian, if we're not going to go by criteria and it's just, I consider myself a Christian, and he's going to say, no, you aren't, then he's establishing. So, like, at what point? This is why maybe Danny wouldn't care and say, yeah, anyone who calls himself a Christian is a Christian, fine. But if you're going to say that there are some standards that make you a Christian or not, then I don't see why we can't say the same for marriage. And
Yeah, I mean that's fine.
What was the Christians who condemned gay marriage, who campaigned against gay marriage? What was their argument? That marriage is like a sacred thing between one man and one woman?
Well, they can't
Not
become one
shacking
flesh.
Marriage
They
is-
can't become one
Marriage
flesh.
was like a legal thing that was only for a man and a woman. Now they're saying marriage is whatever the hell you want it to be. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, this is a little sus, guys, man. Seriously.
do you know what percent?
A little consistency would be.
Do you know what percent of Christians stay virgins until marriage? It's less than 10%.
Yeah,
That's not my problem.
I know. I'm not defending it. I'm just saying it's true. Most of them are hypocrites.
Dirty fornicators.
Well, if God says you shouldn't have sex till marriage, then you should, right, John?
Right. Then you should.
All that abstinence shit that they teach kids in school. What's all those promise rings, the purity rings?
Garbage.
You can do whatever the hell you want.
Hey, Tom, remember John saying to you, why wouldn't you just do what's good if you thought it was good? If you thought it was good, you would just do it, Tom.
Right.
Obviously, you
exactly.
would just do it.
Yeah.
Right? So the fact that John isn't getting married obviously must be the case that John doesn't think marriage is good.
Right. Because if he did, he would just do it, right, John? In fact, you're so far from thinking it's good, you haven't even thought about it.
Look, so
You haven't even considered it.
Before marriage is not a problem. Why are Christians obsessed with like telling people not to have sex before marriage? I don't understand.
Why do they want to restrict it from other people if it's so arbitrary?
Yeah.
Sex is marriage, Hayden.
Because
sex is marriage.
So it's impossible to have sex before marriage. If you have sex,
Why would you have sex before marriage? For what? For what reason?
That's impossible. You can't. You can't.
Marriage?
You can't. You
That's
have
an
to.
easy question to get off.
Yeah, I was gonna say it because it's fun.
Under their
hey,
view,
John,
you
I
literally can't have sex before marriage.
John, I went live on YouTube. I got a super chat. It says from Big Swifty. It says John probably made it to the altar and his oppositional defiance disorder kicked in when they asked if anyone objected to the wedding.
That's right. But yeah, so typically sex is looked at as the consummation of the marriage, right? So there's like these vows, and then the families are there for the witnessing. You have to witness the marriage in case somebody says that it's not legitimate, and then you consummate it and get like that kind of thing, right?
They
So
didn't
that
do
is,
any of that, just to be clear. They did
yeah.
none of that. They just shacked up.
Because the point, Converse, is how do we know if it's not a public thing? How do we know they made a commitment other than just their word for it? Like, I think that's the whole point of
Yeah,
making
I'll be honest with you. I'm more lenient on marriage, something like that. As much as like I'm more like with me, it's more about John's like, oh, if God, if it was the case that God wanted me to murder somebody, I would do it, right?
I mean, yeah,
But
that's
I can't.
worse, but it's just more of the hypocrisy I think behind it is what they're getting at. Like, obviously, him saying "God, I would kill someone if God commanded" is morally worse than sleeping around. But the point is that he was going on telling them that their sexual promiscuity was wrong, when in fact they were living by the same standards he was, or at
That's
least they could.
correct.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's more about
Yeah, this
consistency
guy's
to me
like,
than it is about
this
like.
guy's all holier than
Just
now, calling us like,
just sort of came
fornicators.
back.
Meanwhile, this guy's
I don't think any of them
this
actually
guy's been the
care
biggest
that John.
fornicator of
Didn't
all.
And let me ask you
hasn't
guys this, and converse, Caleb, what do you guys think about the fact that Adam and Eve didn't have any audience? There's nobody.
Their
There was
audience.
no
God,
one there. There
did
wasn't
God
anyone
not
there.
say be fruitful and multiply? Does that not count as an audience?
Yeah.
You think God
But the thing is,
counts as
Caleb,
an ordained
You're
but
gonna
the
priest? Do
count
thing
you
is,
think
that.
that
God,
he's
Probably the
got
only
the
audience that counts.
qualifications?
God's
I
always
feel like
there. God's always there. So it doesn't. That doesn't.
Uh,
There's no
Why
difference.
are you defending him? Oh, is it because you're doing the same thing?
No,
Is
I'm just
yeah,
Haiti.
yeah,
This
yeah.
is my position. I've said this
hasn't
from the beginning.
John
I have
said he's
not
married
changed.
before?
Why
I'm
do you
sorry, I just got
oppose
back.
gay marriage, Andrew? Marriage are
Because I
just
think
people
it's
having
scripturally.
sex.
I think it's
Oh,
scripturally. I think scripturally that's an issue. I told you that,
but
and I
just
don't
like
think.
not being married isn't
Listen,
an issue.
I'm not trying to get. I'm not trying to get into personal stuff. I'm just telling you. And look, here's the thing. The Bible says, if you lust after a woman in your heart, you've committed adultery with her. Okay. Well, does that mean that you are now married to that person? Well,
Huh?
I mean,
You tell
That's
me. If you
not what
have
the Sermon on the
sex with
Mount
them,
says.
with them, and
Andrew,
you
you're
live in
missing
with
the
them, and
part
you
where
marry, are
it's
you married to them?
no, that's what I'm saying. I mean, that's what I'm
That's
asking
what
you.
you
I mean, I'm,
said.
or
If
for any
you
Christian here.
look, if Jovan meets a young lady at the gas station, right,
Oh
has
man.
sex with her, moves in with her, is he married to her?
That's what I'm saying. The vow is important. That's what I'm telling you.
Do you not think it's
What
hypocritical of
vow?
John to condemn people to hell for this and be engaging in it himself, Andrew?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hypocritical of John, depending on. I don't know what the circumstance are. I didn't hear the whole thing of what happened. But I think my big thing is that if he's telling people that he's married and he knows that in people's minds they think that he's legally married and then it comes out as just his girlfriend, yeah, I think
Right.
that's deceptive.
He's been lying every
And I
time
don't
he's
like
said
that.
it.
Yeah, I feel like he
What
said
does
he had
living
the
in
wife. Maybe
sin mean to you,
I
Andrew?
misunderstood.
What does living in sin mean to you? Do you think that's just meaningless?
I think that's when you're just willy nilly. That's what I'm saying.
Willy
I think there's
nilly?
Unbelievable.
there's yeah, there's plenty of
Unbelievable.
people that are doing that.
Andrew, can
If
we?
you
So living in
yeah,
sin is two people
Well,
living together who are not married,
well,
correct?
married. Yeah. No,
Yeah,
that's. I think
I was
Katie's
gonna.
right.
Andrew, can
Outside the
we?
PA,
sacrament of
you're
marriage.
I
PA
want to go
is a
into a
new
private room
Christian entering the
for us to
room. Your
discuss
thoughts,
this.
please, on this. PA?
Oh, sorry. I just got. I had thought John married, but I just got back. I apologize. Maybe I haven't caught up. Well, Catholics consider marriage a sacrament. So, I mean, I don't believe it's acceptable that you can live with someone with whom you're not married in the same household. I think Katie's right on that. Um, I don't know what I don't know what else to say. I'm happily married, 22 years.
Did you hear what? Did you hear anything about John?
Haiti said he wasn't married. I thought he said he was, but maybe I misunderstood
He
what he
did
was.
say he was.
Yeah, John has been
Multiple
saying he's
times.
been married. Like he refers to his wife repeatedly,
That's
right?
what I thought.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
apparently,
Are they?
so somebody
Oh,
got a
that's
tip. Some people, and then like somebody just ended up asking John directly, "Are you married?" And like let them know that they basically knew that he wasn't, and he just came out and said, "Yeah, I'm not married."
maybe it's common law marriage. Some
Nope,
states have
no
that. I
common.
don't know what it
Everyone
Well,
is.
keeps saying that.
well, there's not
It's
common
just
law
about
marriage in the state he's in right now.
Oh, okay. They don't have legal common law marriages. Yeah. I don't know.
And John, when we asked
I don't say
John
they're making
why,
it. Yeah.
when we asked John why isn't he married, his answer was, "I haven't thought about it. It just never
How
came
long
to
has he
mind."
been? How long
20
has he been with
years.
the person he?
20
It's
years.
not. I don't think it's 20 years. You guys keep saying it's 20 years. I think it's more
Now,
like
according to
19
John
years,
Lee,
you
that's
guys.
what he said. He said they've been together for 19 years, so going on 20 years. That's John Lee's answer within the within this very room. That's his
I
answer.
mean, would any self-respecting woman go for that? I mean, allow you to string them along for that long? I don't know. I can't imagine. I don't know. Haiti, I don't want to speak for other people. I don't want to speak for women, but that seems to be a stretch that it's never
I
come
mean,
up.
this is like that's all.
Of course it
That's
came
might
up.
be an interesting question, but like, look, I mean, like, don't the Christians agree God wants this friggin' fornicator to get married? Isn't that like clear? Can we all agree on that?
I mean, the Catholic Church considers marriage a sacrament, and you're not supposed to live with someone who you're not married to. So,
Right. Well,
but I don't know that I want to force someone into an unhappy marriage either. But that's maybe a different
but
situation.
I mean, they're not married, so they could just, if they're unhappy, they could just go whenever, right?
Well, yeah, that's true, and probably, I hate to sound judgy
So we're
when I
not
say it like
forced.
this,
So no one's forcing them
but
into
Bro,
it to
this is
not have
about
anything.
being judgy, right? Because God is being judgy, saying, hey,
yeah,
fornicators, get friggin' married. It's about being friggin' judgy, dude. What, are you gonna go soft on me now?
Yeah, we're playing by your
well, I just
rules,
meant,
right?
Are we assuming she's
this is my church's rule. Yeah, I mean, I think they could probably marry. I mean, certainly if they've been together for however long, nine years, you said? That's a long time to be married. I mean, not to be married.
19.
Oh, 19. Yeah, and I would call shenanigans that it's never. I think it's ridiculous. I don't think any couple that stays together for 19 years never.
Never what?
I mean, I just can't imagine it.
I didn't hear what you said.
So,
You broke up.
My parents
any
been together that long,
couple.
and they're not married.
Well, I can understand not being married, but I can't understand it never coming up.
Oh, right. Yeah,
That's
obviously.
That's
Yeah,
obviously
that's
just a
obviously.
I call
flat
shenanigans
lie.
on that. Yeah,
that's a lie.
That doesn't
That's
sound
a
right.
straight
Yeah.
up lie.
Even atheists, right? Even two atheists will talk about marriage, right? No matter what.
Right,
Even two people who don't want marriage will end up talking about marriage in 20 years.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
We did within
So.
the first like 4 or 5 years. Like it was pretty quick. So it's.
Yeah, he's a liar.
Yeah, we did as well. Yeah, we courted
he's
for
either lying, which is probably
3 or 4 years,
the
and
true
then.
answer.
Yeah.
I wonder what the reason why they don't get married is, right? You think it actually is her? She's like, I don't want to get tied down.
Well, I mean, it makes sense. They're both like very independent, kind of live separate lives. He probably doesn't want to share everything with her. I don't know. If he wasn't a
it's not
Christian,
the only reason to do.
he's not that type.
Yeah. Yeah, I
if
mean,
he wasn't him, it'd be fine. Like I don't have a problem with it, but he's him, right?
I think it's tough for a devout Christian to square that circle, though. I think you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the priest in our case, it didn't come in our situation just because we weren't doing this, but the priest actually asked us straight out before we got, "Hey, are you living together?" Because it's common in the modern age. We weren't, but I mean, if we had been, I think there would have been a problem. So, but I don't know how realistic that is in the modern day, quite
Wouldn't
frankly.
it
And I think a
be
lot
a
of priests.
problem in any church, not just a Catholic one?
I can only speak for Catholicism, but I assume so. Yeah.
We need more. We need
John's
more
a Presbyterian.
Christians.
Yeah. So John's a Presbyterian, and the rule that the Reformed Presbyterian Church has is that people who are unmarried are not to enjoy in sexual intercourse. Now,
Wow.
now again,
Yeah,
that
it's the same for
seems to
Catholics.
be the fate. Yeah, I think that is. I think the institution of marriage is kind of a little bit older thing than that, but just saying as a part of John's like immediate faith, he's it seems that he should be married if they're living
Yeah,
together.
I mean,
So,
if
but that
he
may
were a
be why they don't go
Unitarian
to
or
church.
something, if
That
he
may
were
be why they don't go
Unitarian
to
or
church.
something, yeah, or maybe that's why. Yeah, because I know as a Catholic, you can't receive communion if you are
Yeah,
married.
that's
If you
right.
are not
And
married,
see,
if you are
But
married, and
his
if you are
wife is
divorced,
Catholic. That's the
yeah,
other thing. Isn't his wife Catholic?
She used to be. Now she's like a Calvinist like him.
I think you
But
said
she
Well,
comes from a
that's
Catholic
according to
family, so
that's what
you,
John
yeah, that's what
said,
it
but
is.
I
Yeah.
don't.
Do we know
But
if
you can
she's
imagine what her family thinks. They're probably really upset.
John, I
do we know
want
if
to tell.
she's real?
depending on how devout they are. Yeah.
I don't know what that
Yeah,
person just said. You're like inaudible.
she's probably real. John, you want me to? I want to tell you something my pastor told me, John. I want you to listen very well. I'm going to teach you a little bit. When a man has sex with his wife and they're both naked, they're not ashamed. But when a person's committing adultery or fornication and they're both naked, they are ashamed. However, the first time you commit sin, you're ashamed. But when you continue sinning more and more, sin takes control of you, John. You just become a slave to sin, and you justify and see nothing wrong with your sin. Stop being a slave, John. Get married.
Wow. Powerful words. I want to get
Slave
married.
to sin, John Lee. He's a slave to his sin.
Why is John being so quiet?
He's got nothing to say.
Well,
What can he
this is
say?
mortifying. What can he say?
John, you haven't said anything to me. What's going on?
Do you think he's trying to spin all
I
of
would.
this?
This is a problem for churches. I don't know. Maybe they're very liberal about this sort of thing. It would be a problem for at least in my church.
Feelings, nothing more than feelings.
That's a sound clip for people that don't know.
He's in the text chat eating cheeseburgers.
2 double cheeseburgers.
Yeah, that's what he's trying to. That's what he's
I
trying to
told you,
signal is that he's not
cheating, I
like
told
bothered by it, but he actually is to the point where he's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
even. He's not even.
The
talking.
majority of your live audience, Tom, seems to think this is a troll by John Lee.
Yeah, there's a
And
poll
he
that I
needs
put
to-
up, and they think that it's an elaborate troll. Most of them do, but yeah, I don't think so.
I mean, that would just make it worse for John if it's a troll.
No, the tempo of the responses when the hammer dropped, this isn't a troll.
Just think, remember, I just want everyone to remember that's listening. John says he will not lie to the Nazis if they ask him if he has Jews in the basement. He can't lie. He's incapable
Did he really
of
say that?
lying to the yes.
He also would have
He
killed
said he
his
wouldn't
gay
lie
kid
to
during
keep Nazis from killing a Jew that's in his house.
He
Are you
wouldn't
kidding me?
stop. He wouldn't stop the Nazis from killing his girlfriend either.
Yeah, and he
I
would have
almost said
killed a
wife.
gay kid. He would have killed a gay kid during the times of Leviticus.
I would
but
kick
he won't get
puppies.
married now.
I would kick puppies.
So if John will lie, think about that. If John's trolling us right now, John will let a person, his own wife, his own girlfriend, die to not lie, but he will lie to some atheists on the internet to troll them. Just let that sink in.
Insane.
Unless his whole shtick is a lie, right? He really doesn't believe. He really doesn't
Wait,
believe in predestination. He really doesn't believe in.
Do you think this is
Meaning the whole
performance
thing's a
art?
shtick. Yeah, I just meant maybe the whole thing is a shtick. Maybe John Lee is a complete
Um,
character, and he doesn't really believe that, God's not evil. I mean, I don't know.
You're giving him too much
Yeah.
credit.
Pa, I could
Okay,
also be
well.
a brain in a vat, bud. You know,
That's
some
true.
things are just fantastical, outrageous ideas.
Fair enough.
This is actually funny. I've seen this person do it too. Falcon Orca. They said they've been mocking John about his wife in air quotes for a while now, and I've actually seen that every time he writes wife about John, it's always in air quotes. I was wondering why he did it. It's kind of funny how this turned out.
Delano,
It's like
you should be voted Man of the Year for dropping this bomb.
He got played. What can I say?
Oh, this is your work, Delano?
Yeah, this is good. This is good.
Congratulations.
Yeah, this is Delano.
Oh, congratulations. This is chef's kiss. Very good.
Well, to be fair, I've said this in the past, but nobody ran with it.
Oh, this is that's crazy.
This is up there with the kidnapping drama.
This is almost as bad as him stealing water, which is something I will never forget.
Yeah, I think John's just gonna be able to. I think he's just gonna escape it all by saying, "Well, I consider us married" or something, right?
Yeah, but that's not going to
church
escape
might not.
I
anything.
think
He's
there are some
trapped,
conservative
bro.
Christians who, yeah.
John's in a
I was gonna say,
fucking. Good.
no, sorry. You.
No, go
I
ahead.
totally interrupt you.
I mean, his church may not.
I will not go until you go, Pa.
Yeah.
Okay. I was gonna say, I think there are some conservative churches that will do a ceremony that's in the church, but not necessarily. It's not a like they won't get married under the kind of state law, or they might get a state.
That's not what they did, though.
Yeah, but he didn't do that.
They didn't have some sort of blessing in his temple or something or whatever.
No.
Huh.
You guys keep looking to like give him outs. There's nothing.
There's nothing.
He's just a dude
John's in a
with a
hallway
chick.
with a
Well,
bunch
I'm
of doors.
trying to be charitable. I don't know him, so.
John's in a hallway with a bunch of doors right now. And right now in his mind, he's running up to every door and opening it and finding a monster, right? If he runs to the door that he's trolling, well, now he's just been lying to people, right? Which he wouldn't do to the Nazis to save Jews. Well, if he does the not trolling part and just says, well, what I meant was that I was married, blah, blah, blah. Well, you're still lying to people when they ask you about your wife or when you tell people you have a wife. And clearly, they don't know that you're not married legally, right? They assume you're married legally. So you're still lying to people.
I mean,
and again,
yeah.
we're right back with the Jew, right? So
At
no
the
matter
very least,
where
it's misleading,
what door
yeah.
this man opens, he just sees teeth.
Yeah, it's definitely misleading and probably.
All he can see right now is a double cheeseburger in each fist while he eats and sobs.
Double cheeseburger is the best thing at McDonald's.
I'm not going to disagree.
Yeah, he's just gonna say, "I consider us married," but like I say, I think the biggest issue isn't necessarily Christianity at large. It's going to be his denomination, because
John,
he like sticks to his well, because like he really sticks to his like Presbyterian Calvinist leanings, Reformed stuff, and those are the people really that are. Let's face it, they're more strict than most, right? Like I read the thing on the Presbyterians website about it, and it's it's like everybody needs to be married unless you're just committing your life to the Lord and like but you're still abstaining from sex and stuff like that. So they take all that stuff exactly how you're thinking about it, but not everybody, of course, does.
John is saying in chat, or he's
I don't want
implying
to
in
encourage
chat.
him, but what does he mean by that?
John is implying in chat that he didn't say the thing about the Nazis and the Jews.
Is that what he's saying? That he
We got
didn't
clips.
say that? He said that. He said it multiple times.
He did
he's
say
saying
that,
I'm lying.
but he said later on, I questioned him on the stuff about I don't know. We had a few people in here, and we were like, "What about these verses in the Bible?" It seemed like Pharaoh was, the midwives were rewarded for lying to Pharaoh, and then I told him like my view of virtue ethics in the Bible was that like they were rewarded because the Nazis aren't playing the moral game, right? So I don't owe the Nazis the truth because they're no longer playing the moral game and so forth. And then he said, maybe you're right, and I think after that, him and Tom kind of talked about it, and he just got convinced otherwise. So I think he changed his view on that later, maybe, but he did definitely say that at one point.
Wow,
But I don't
I
even
did
think
not
you
see
need
that
it.
coming.
Yeah, I don't think you
Well-
need it though, because he said if God commanded me to
do all sorts of atrocities. He would do them.
Right. I
Yet
mean,
it
yeah,
seems that he's commanded to get married. Yeah.
Wait,
Yeah,
what is all this about John not being married?
Oh my God, what's up, man? How you doing
Deepak,
today?
you might want to talk to your client.
I was thinking I'd stay off Clubhouse today, like get some work done, and then I pull up YouTube and like Tom is live, and there's something about Tom. I'm like, what
You might not want to take his money on this one.
Yeah, I'm not good at family court anyway, so yeah, I'm staying out of this one.
Nice.
Yeah, so there was a tip, and the tip involved John Lee, and then it ended up with somebody asking John Lee directly, "Hey, are you married, John Lee?" And John Lee came clean and said, "No, he's actually not married."
Wow. Wait, what does he call her? His wife then?
Oh, you forgot the part where he tried to lie about common law.
Is that his girlfriend's name in the post? Can we take that?
Oh,
down,
then
please?
they asked him. Well, he tried to say that they were common law married.
Yeah, take
but
that down in the
apparently,
post if it's there.
California doesn't have common law marriage, but that doesn't
Or at least
negate
blur it out.
technically that there was another state they got married in. I don't know how long John Lee's been in California.
Unbelievable.
John, man, say it ain't so.
Oh, it's so.
Think about all the times he's condemned atheists for this behavior, Deepak.
Fornication.
Has
He's
he
just a
actually condemned
walking
atheists
contradiction.
for?
Of course.
Okay.
I mean, look, I get like it's true. Like if he was like a more liberal Christian, that'd be a different story, right? Maybe he could say like, hey, marriage was a thing because of the fall, and it was, granted for a certain time or whatever the case, whatever, right? But John is like not. He doesn't buy into that stuff. He's like traditional, right? So I think that's really why it sticks.
So I just talked to Godless Girl, and she said she told Silver Star, and Silver Star's like responding to her. And I said, tell him to come in our room, because I really want to hear this reaction.
Oh no.
Even though I don't like Silver Star,
Well,
I think
wait,
he's a piece of garbage.
doesn't Delana have him blocked?
I think. Well, whoever has.
I think we could probably
you
make
know.
an exception in this
We
case.
can figure it out. Yeah. We need this. We need this reaction for sure. Because he knows like the rules. He's what do you call it? Presbytery. So he'll be able to say whether it's just okay that he's just like having sex with her.
Even if it's common law marriage, though, it doesn't matter because common law marriage is what? How long? I mean, Haiti brought this up. It's like 7 years, I think, or something along those lines. So they would have been
Depends on the
living
state.
together for a long time,
Yeah.
even if it was common law marriage.
Wait, even if it's
I would
common law
imagine he makes the cutoff if the state allowed it. Yeah.
Silver Star just said he's blocked from the room.
Whoever has him blocked, unblock him. Come on.
Yeah, I remembered somebody blocked. It wasn't Delano though. It was
Do
somebody.
you want to move everyone down to the audience and then bring him in and then?
No.
Do the? Oh, okay.
Who could have him blocked?
Just check your block list.
I unblocked him. I had him blocked, but I just unblocked him for this occasion.
Not to be a pain, but could somebody take that picture down because it's got his girlfriend's name on it?
Mods, take care of it, please.
Why won't John just comment? He's in the.
He's just dead in the water.
Room.
He's been chatting a little. He's dismissive. Texting rather, not chatting. Texting.
He's just kind of blushing and that kind of thing.
He could speak up. I mean, he's here.
What's he gonna say? He's got nothing to. I mean, like he's dead. He's done.
Oh, Jack's back.
Oh my God,
Oh,
Jack's here.
Jack.
Oh God, Jack, you're not gonna believe this.
Yes, I wish you were here so bad.
Hey, buddy.
Talk, guys.
So Jack, it turns out that John Lee's not actually legally married. He just has a girlfriend. He's been fornicating for 20 years.
But he doesn't want to talk about it? Well, first of all, how did this come out?
No, he doesn't want to talk about it. He definitely doesn't want to talk about it.
How this momentous. Well, it's momentous. But
He's actually
How
gone
did it-
completely silent from this.
how did this come out?
I don't know. Someone just told someone. Got a tip.
Oh,
Delano
God.
asked him, and John confirmed it.
The big clue was somebody posted a Facebook post from 2014 that called the lady in his life his girlfriend during doing a volunteer thing.
Wow. But you know, if you're a Protestant, what does it really mean to be married?
Taking vows. I mean, it's not that different traditionally, the requirements from any of the other Christian Christian factions. They all have
Yeah,
pretty
but
similar requirements.
Jack's what I'm saying is, yeah, Jack. That's what I was saying is that it's not part of the sacraments of the church.
Right,
It's like
exactly.
it's frowned upon and stuff. Like the Mormons and the Catholics and a few others, like it's part. Like you can't take communion, you can't do any, you can't participate in any of that stuff without the
Right.
marriage. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
sorry. Did
But
someone
Presbyterian.
wait, stop. Did someone remove Delano from the room? He said he was kicked from the room.
Who would have kicked him?
Maybe they try to move him down, and then if he had Silver Star blocked, and then I don't know.
There's no
If
way
you
he stepped into a room when she's been kicked.
If you send him the web browser link, he can at least listen to it.
Well, it's got to be about time to preserve the replays on
It's
this
11
anyway, right?
hours, 17 minutes.
Oh, you might as well make a new room then.
Yeah.
Yeah, make a new room.
It just seems like if you're a Protestant, well, you tell me. I mean, I guess because he's a Presbyterian,
Well, it's going to matter
right?
because the Presbyterian thing is going to get him because like their message on like their website says like you're either married or you're celibate and serving the Lord or something like that, right? So
Shall
you
we
can't
make
be.
a new room called
Yeah.
John Lee is
Yes.
not married?
Well,
Should we do it?
Yeah.
Is that too much?
Yeah, do it.
I think that's a bit too much, but you could say something like,
No, but he signed off on that. That's what John says when we ask him.
Oh, why are Christians fornicators, or something like there's
Put that joke at the one
there's an
first
infestation
unmarried
of
bachelor.
fornicators or something. Christian
Friends with
fornicators or
benefits.
something.
No. The first
What do
unmarried
David Lee and John Lee have in
how
common?
about
The
the
first
sanctity,
unmarried bachelor.
the sanctity of friends with benefits? How about that?
John Lee colon single ready to mingle.
That was Warlock's joke, by the way. That John Lee is the first unmarried bachelor.
I was traveling in my head. It's a good one.
Oh my God. The
No, the
sanctity
first
of
married
friends.
bachelor.
Oh my God.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry,
the very
first married bachelor.
Maybe
First
you
married
can.
The very first
You
married
can. Someone
bachelor.
made that joke
John
already that you
Lee,
can be an unmarried bachelor. You can be a
Yeah.
married bachelor. That's John Lee. He's married and a bachelor.
Yeah.
In his theology, shouldn't he get married before he dies so that he's not guilty of this horrible sin?
Yeah. All right, let's send this room. And what's the room name? Sanctity of Friends with Benefits. Okay, I'm gonna make it.
Or just John Lee, married bachelor.
Oh my God. Okay, I'm ending the room.
Those are both.
Oh boy. All right, I'll wait for them to join the new room, and then I'll join it. Silver Star is gonna like rebuke him pretty badly, I would think. I'd imagine you guys want to hear that. Let's wait till it shows up. Oh man, this is gonna be bad for John. See it yet? Yeah. Oh, there he goes.
Misinformation was spread.
It might have been an accident.
Um,
I hope.
You got kicked from the room?
Yeah, kick.
Yeah, somebody kicked me from the room for absolutely no reason.
Come on
Maybe you
stage.
X'd out of it by accident and then somebody had you blocked so you couldn't get back in.
Did you get the red thing that says you've been removed from the room?
Silver Star's here.
Oh, yay. Okay.
Welcome, Silver
Well,
Star.
wait, where's John? We need John in here.
He's down there.
Oh my god, a lot of people are here for this. This is crazy. John, please come on stage.
Get some invites. Let's go.
I'm trying, hold on.
Well,
Silver Star, what would John Lee's church do if they found out he wasn't married?
das Boot.
Das Boot.
Well, he said that wasn't going to happen, though. He said there
He
was.
would be like how would you announce it if you were given a play-by-play when the ball is leaving the stadium? Going, it's gone, it's out
gone.
of here.
Nice.
There's been a lot of apologetics saying like, well, the Bible says, you know, if you have sex with someone and you stay with them, that's like what marriage is and all this nonsense. What do you think of that?
Well, if you'll allow me to read the Bible, if that's permissible, I will. Just quote
We'll
a
make
single.
an exception for you.
Thank you so much. You're too kind, Haiti. So I will just a single verse. I don't want to tire the people who hate the word of God. But there's a little something in this verse for all of us, right? A warning for all of us in here. But especially notice who gets mentioned at the top of the list here from the King James Bible for you King James only people. So we're going to go back to Elizabethan English, if that's okay, just for a verse. This is from 1 Corinthians chapter 6 and verse 9. Know ye not that the unrighteous shall not inherit the kingdom of God? Be not deceived, neither fornicators, nor idolaters, nor adulterers, nor effeminate, nor abusers of themselves with mankind. And there you have it. The word of God.
Fornicators, that means what exactly?
Those who are living in sexually immoral lives, or we also call it, in my grandmother's generation, they would call it living in sin openly and publicly in defiance of the word of God, in defiance to the commands of the word of God. So it's open and notorious sin. It's not just, I messed up once. It's, this is my lifestyle. That makes you a fornicator when it's your lifestyle and you live in defiance of the word of God. For example, to live with someone prior to marriage would be an example of that.
But all sin is equal.
Where does it say that?
Oh, I mean, do you disagree?
Of course I do. That's a lie.
Okay.
You know, we don't punish premeditated murder the same way we punish a traffic fine.
But God does.
That's not true. Where's that written? I don't know where you're getting these verses from. What Bible are you reading?
Silver Star, maybe what if
Is all
John Lee?
sin not punished the same?
Yeah, Sean,
No, there's not.
you're derailing.
Maybe
You
there's a
want to know what he?
loophole. If John Lee repented a while ago, he's
What?
impotent, so he hasn't had fornicated with her once, and they're just like living together. Could that be a loophole if he's repented?
Could that be a loophole? Wow, this
You're
is
now defending a
hilarious.
heretic.
Yeah, the
This is a fun
flaccid
world, this
loophole.
clubhouse world. We got godless defending a heretic who still claims and is still for some reason considered by many to be a Christian, even though his great mentor, the Brian Dempsey, has excoriated and eviscerated him as an unbeliever. Should anyone forget, I'm sure Tom Rabbit has it on replay at the press of a button.
Yeah. Let's.
Silver Star. So let's say so this person's been with this person for 19 years, says they're committed to this person, they've been living together and having sex. Would you call those people fornicators? And they're not married.
It's a good question. I think if they could have under what's called Old English common law, there's now a legal protections for the both of them as common law wife and husband. He could argue that they're common law and they
Well, he
just have a
attempted
form.
that. However, the girls looked it up. There is no common law marriage in the state of California.
Oh, very good. And so they got rid of common law in California?
No, apparently, or they never had it. One of the two.
There's only a
Wow.
few states with it.
That's
They
interesting. I'm a
just
lawyer.
call it. They just rebranded it California.
Also, he would have been sleeping with this woman before common law even took into effect, because common law, obviously, you got to be living together for a while, anyways.
That's true. Yeah, as I understand common law, it's like open and notorious, you know, relationship, living as if you're man and wife. Right? I thought it was 7 years or something. I know people used to throw that around a lot back in the day as to why they didn't need to get married, because they'd already been living together for 7 years, and she had already all the rights and privileges that would a wife would normally receive under the protection of the law. But I'm not a lawyer. My cousin's a lawyer, but that doesn't make me one. So I'm not offering legal advice or consultation to anybody or pretending to be that I am a lawyer. Just that is my disclaimer. And the side effects of this particular drug may be this. So no, I'm not giving or purporting to give any legal advice to anyone in here.
Can I just clarify something real quick?
With me?
Yeah.
About what I believe is a Presbyterian, or what my church that John Lee claims to be a member of. So he claims to be a member of my denomination. Maybe that's the only reason why I'm in here. But he claims to be a member of my denomination. I know how my church would react should the information that you guys are just shared with me. I just learned of this, I think, first from Godless, then Tom Rabbit, about this new development. It's just further evidence against John Lee's excommunication trial. So he would certainly be given a hearing before his elders, and he would present the facts, the pertinent facts regarding him living in open and notorious sin with the woman, if that's the accusation, which it seems to be. And then the fact that he has said blasphemy after blasphemy after blasphemy here on Clubhouse, as documented in the Tom Rabbit videos, which he doesn't need to wait for some compilation of greatest hits by Tom Rabbit. I forget what you call that on YouTube when you put together a
Compilation, yeah.
specialty. What's it called?
Compilation. Yeah.
Oh, compilation. Thank you. Yeah, I don't think he has to wait for that. It's just any one of those videos, but especially that 10-minute clip there with Amber Rose, was plenty enough to get him excommunicated should he not repent and not disown. Um, and I'm sure that he would have to follow their admonishment, because they would then give him a prescription to follow. Like, here's the remedy for all the horrible things you've said and done. And they would give him the remedy. And my guess, and again, I don't know for sure, but my guess is they tell him to get off of social media for a while and stay in counseling with your pastor, and come to church and get spiritual advice. Meanwhile, you're not allowed to take communion for X amount of time. Usually that's like one of the punishments you get as a Christian, is they ask you to refrain from communion. So it kind of, you're a little bit on the outs, but you're kind of then put under guidance, under watch. It's called spiritual oversight.
Well,
But he
John
does.
doesn't go to church anyway, so that's the thing.
Oh, Converse. Yeah, you're saying he doesn't go to
John
church?
doesn't even. Yeah, he doesn't even go. So I don't think he
Well,
would even care.
yeah,
But
I've
but
heard he says that he's been going to this church a long time. Then I hear that he doesn't go, so I don't know what to believe. He talks out of both sides of his mouth. I don't know what to believe, anything coming out of this guy.
it seems, is it? Do you think that if he's a member at a Reformed Presbyterian church, right? It seems like they would at least, even if he didn't want to get married, like by state, like legally by the state, it would seem that they would probably want him to have like some type of ceremony with the church or something. Maybe. I mean, it might not be required. I'm not sure. What do you think?
It pretty much would be. He would at least have to profess. He would have to go some sort of ceremony in the church, if he's never had one before. Usually, in order to be received as a member, if he's in that situation. So, because it's in a way it's a profession of faith too. As to, this is who I am. This is what we're about. And it's a covenant, because Christians and Reformed people especially believe in covenant, and we believe that marriage is one of the first covenants that human beings have with one another and have with God. It's the marriage covenant, and it's instituted by God. And this is why Christians made such a big deal about marriage, because it goes to the very beginning of the Bible, first opening chapters of Genesis, when man and woman are created. God gives the idea of sex and intimacy and the union that men and women have with one another. It's his idea, not Adam's idea, to have someone to complete him. In fact, it is very interesting. If I was an unbeliever or an atheist, I'd be, wait a minute, was there anything imperfect or not quite right about creation that God made? And God actually says, yes, there was something incomplete, and it was that Adam was incomplete. He needed a helper to make him complete. And the woman actually completes the man. And so it is why it's so imperative that things be understood, that marriage isn't just a contract. It's just not a social convention. There's a spiritual union. It's mysterious, between a man and a woman, where they be two separate flesh become one flesh through that marriage covenant and vow. And sexual intimacy is sort of the consummation of that. And for example, you could draw the analogy, like when you take communion in church, where you're supposed to be communing with God and meeting with God. Well, communion sort of is analogous to a man and woman having sex. So he would get punished. It'd be like if he goes to church and he's living this way, it's almost like saying you're going to be refused the ultimate intimacy that church provides you for a while as a form of discipline, of punishment, so you can get your act together and do some reflection. He actually seems to be far from willing or able to do that.
So
So
Superstar, you failed before convincing Johnny Hawes, who is like John Lee's closest sidekick or whatever, that John Lee is guilty of heresy. So now Johnny Hawes can't deny it, right?
Well, yeah, I don't know how Johnny gets away defending some of the stuff that John Lee has said and done. I disagree with Johnny Haas vehemently on it, and he doesn't seem open to advice or guidance. I don't know who Johnny Haas is accountable to, or who he looks to for advice or guidance. A lot of people are self-appointed authorities, and in Scripture and in Christianity, there's always been a form of church polity and accountability, because otherwise you wouldn't have organized Christianity. You just wouldn't have it. And so there is that built-in accountability, because it's how we don't just become little fiefdoms unto ourselves. A lot of people accuse Protestantism of that when we rebelled against Roman Catholicism, that they thought, well, you're going to fracture off into 100 little churches, and then you won't have a Christian church anymore in Protestantism. And that was sort of the accusation. And some of the concerns were warranted, obviously, with the fracturing. But ultimately, we as Christians, Bible-believing Protestants, believe that our unity is one of spirit, and that it's not merely one to physical powers that be, or instituted powers that simply have accumulated for themselves wealth and armies in this world, because Jesus says his kingdom is not of this world. So anyway,
Yeah, but John
talking.
sinning is not heresy.
What's that?
John sinning is not heresy, right? He could still believe all the things that are not technically heresy, right, and still be sinning, right?
That's potentially true. That's really a judgment that's supposed to be up to his elders. I don't think I'm equipped to make that judgment, but it could be an expression of his heresy, actually. So I don't know. I don't know John Lee really that well enough, and nor do I think I want to get to know him at this point. I don't think he wants to get to know me either. I think he's, oh yeah, sure, I want to have you come to Santa Barbara and we'll catch a meal together. Yeah, no thanks. I'll take a
I
hard
want to
cut.
do that. Yeah, so I mean, somebody's already brought this up, right? Like he basically like has been silent the last 30 minutes. Like, how do we
Oh,
know
see.
he's not just like sitting down there like laughing his little head off because we're all like,
why
I don't know
would
why
he
you guys
laughing?
keep trying to pose that as a hypothesis. That's ridiculous.
This is
Well,
how he typically
well,
typically reacts when he feels like he's not in an advantageous position.
Yeah,
Why does the person that gave you the tip have to be anonymous, Delano?
Okay, because I don't disclose DMs. God.
okay, so Delano, you're the source of this development with John Lee?
Yeah, that's right.
I
But
see.
John Lee's admitted it.
Okay, so, but all this time he was hiding it then, which is bearing false witness, by the way, which is also a violation of one of the 10 Commandments.
Well, he was referring to her as his wife to us.
That's false witness.
Well, he didn't consider in their 19 years together. He didn't consider marriage. Like he said he didn't think about it. So I guess that's gives him an out. Just kidding.
I mean,
What?
Isn't that funny though? He said he never thought about it. It's
Not
weird.
once.
You
Never
never
even thought about it.
considered getting married?
Never once.
Could
No.
he?
Well,
Could he have become a member of that church, living in sin? Would he have had to tell the elders?
he would have to
And
have
would
lied.
they have? He'd
No,
have
he
to have lied.
would have to have lied, which would have, again, bearing false witness. It's a violation of the 10 Commandments. In the Old Testament covenant community of Israel, any violation and conviction of violating the 10 Commandments was a capital offense of any of the 10. Those were all capital crimes. So he's committed a capital crime if God is the same yesterday, today, and forever, as I believe he is. Means God is still, even though the law of the land would give him refuge or give him a quarter, but as God is concerned, he's committed a capital.
Now, would you, in your opinion, would it be okay to call John Lee or refer to him as a fornicator?
Absolutely correct.
Okay, so like I'm just gonna spitball like some nicknames like John Lee the fornicator, right? Something like that.
Yeah, fornicate come lately. Yeah, he's definitely a fornicator, based on the biblical definition of it. Any Webster's dictionary definition of it, he would match up with. And it's interesting because and I've heard him quote that verse numerous times against you guys, calling you guys sexually immoral.
Exactly.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
yeah, Jesus ought to say, Jesus, look up how many times Jesus condemns religious people for being what? Hypocrites. Look how many
That's
times the
funny you
word
say that,
hypocrite.
Mr. Start, because John Lee tells me, he says that part of what his like mission statement is on here is to cast light on hypocrisy, and he does not discriminate when he does it. He just quote calls them like he sees them. Meanwhile, we've got one of the biggest fornicators on the entire platform here.
Yeah. No, he takes one to know one, I suppose.
When John's caught in a lie, he usually just denies it or just says, "Yeah, I'm a sinner. I make mistakes." So that's probably just what he's going to do, right?
He already bit the bullet and then stuck his head in the dirt.
yeah, I think he's just going to say that he considers himself marriage under common law, even if the state doesn't allow for it or something like that.
Yeah, there's some loophole like that. That's what he's hanging on to.
Yeah, but that's what we're saying about the church. That's going to be the issue, is that the Presbyterian Church is not. They're just not going to be open to having members that are like, halfway committed to that kind of thing,
No.
because they're just going to be like, you should have committed to your wife and to the church by having a ceremony or something.
Yeah, no. Whatever he's selling, they ain't buying. They're not buying that one. It's a line of bull. This whole whatever excuse he comes up for. Again, all he has to be asked is, would your elders, any evangelifish church, and I'm not a big fan of evangelicals these days, if anyone hasn't figured that out. None of them, even as loose as some of them are in their morals, are going to be on board with that one. that you could live openly with 19 years and not bother to marry the woman that you say you love and that you're committed to. No, they're not buying it.
So wait, so he'll make some excuse about a loophole, but he can't actually believe that, right? He must know that he's living in this terrible sin. So maybe how could he like maybe he's doesn't even really he's lost his faith because how it would be too irrational to think that he would have to think he's headed to hell, right?
Well, I don't think he really believes that. I don't think he really believes that for one minute.
That he's headed to hell or that Calvinism is true.
He can't possibly still think he's elect, right? Unless
Yeah,
he's
that's what
living this
I
lie.
didn't articulate it well, but that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
I think that John, there's probably some. I mean, I don't know this, of course, but there's probably some circumstance where it's like maybe they're. I mean, not probably. There may be some circumstance to where they can't actually officially get married or something. I don't know, right? But I'm just saying like
Right.
that
You mean
could
one
be
of
a possibility.
married to someone else?
So he's holding on to
That or
something like
some
that,
other
I
thing. I don't know.
guarantee. And he's just he's just gonna wait till tomorrow or the next day and be like, well, actually, I did say this
No, I
other
think the
part.
worst part is really just that he says like after 19 years, oh, I just never really thought about it. It's like, yeah, right, guy.
Yeah, that's just a flat out lie.
Yeah, I mean, if he's Korean, correct? And Korean is very similar with Japanese culture. They're very averse to ever granting a divorce.
To each other. I'm just kidding.
What'd you say? To each other? That too. But
Yeah.
I've been living here in Japan for 10 years. But even if you want to get a divorce, they're very loath to grant it. They would rather you go live with a mistress for 10, 20, 30 years than give you a divorce.
I would feel really bad for John if he like thinks he's going to hell. Like he genuinely believes it and he's just like, you know, going through the motions like that.
But if you really believe that, you don't psychologically deal with yourself very well for very long. Just Judas Iscariot, case in point. So Judas Iscariot had to have known at some point what he was doing. But look, it wasn't just for the 30 pieces of silver, because he had to have some other scheme in mind when he was betraying Christ. Because when he was given the 30 pieces of silver, he tried to give it back, and then he just threw it out onto the field, and then he hung himself from a tree and committed suicide before even Christ rose from the dead. So it had to be probably within 24 hours of the betrayal of the crucifixion of Christ. So I imagine it was the following day. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think John, if he was even as a human being as Judas Iscariot was, and I don't think he was very decent, he's probably one of the worst human beings ever. So I don't really think, Sean, I don't agree with you that he thinks that he's going to hell. I think at that point, Judas knew what he had done and understood the gravity of it. I don't think John even comes close to understanding the gravity of any of these things. To him, it's all just a joke. That's what really makes him a heretic. He just treats the things of God
Maybe he's an
as a
atheist.
joke.
Yeah,
What?
maybe he doesn't he's just doubting his faith altogether.
No,
I
I
mean,
think
this
he's honestly.
guy's like saying that, hey, if you regenerate, then you're gonna act a certain way, and you're gonna be compelled to abide or live in compliance with God's word and his prescriptions and all this. Like this guy's been fornicating. He's been fornicating for 20 years, for 2 decades.
Yeah, that's what he said. Yeah.
Maybe he doesn't really
Wait,
believe that.
wait. New theory, John. Everybody keep another download though. If she's not a citizen, that could be another another issue.
Well, that's jail. That's jail and $250,000 and up to 6 years imprisonment.
This
Keep
explains why
that
they
one on the
don't go
download.
to her family's holiday outings, right? I'm sure they don't want to
He's not.
see him around.
Yeah, he's not married to her. He's just
Yeah,
some
no.
dude, he's shacked up with.
Yeah. Well, see, the thing is, if he's at all. Honestly, I think he's just a LARPing individual. There's no way. Look, I was raised by atheists. I think a lot of you know, and I've heard that from me. He's way more immoral than any atheist in my family. Just with the things he says, people in my family would never dream to say the things that's come out of his filthy mouth. I mean, yeah, I've got truck drivers and sailors and veterans in my family. They curse up storms that'll certainly would make anyone blush. But John Lee, the stuff he says, I'm telling you, he's way beneath you guys. He's way beneath every atheist in this room.
Thank you, Silverstar.
Absolutely.
Because he's a
Wait.
power bottom.
He is the worst of the worst. He's the worst wretch I've known. You know how many Christians do you think I've met in 38 years being a Christian? He's worse than any Christian I've met in 38 years with the stuff that comes out of his filthy mouth.
But do you think he's a believer?
No, I haven't thought he's been a believer for a year. You guys didn't believe me. I says, oh, he's one of you. He's a Calvinist. No, he's not. I know what a Calvinist looks and walks and talks and sounds like, and it ain't John Lee. And
Well,
Brian figured that out. He can pretend for a little while. Okay, I will
But
grant that he
Silverstar, do
might
you
have
think
had.
he
but you don't think
believes?
he's an
Do you think
atheist?
he believes he's a Calvinist?
Well, that's a good question. Now we're getting into some really interesting philosophical musings and ponderings. What does John really believe he thinks he is? I wouldn't pretend to be able to get into that twisted mind of his.
Do you think
Well,
he's an
why don't you
atheist,
take
or
him under
do
your
you think
wing?
he's like an unbeliever in the sense that like an atheist or is an unbeliever, or do you think he's just like a pretend Christian, but he thinks there's some kind of God, or is that just all up in the air?
Well, has anyone seen his? No, he was doing it on Facebook for years. It's a bit of a long troll, to pretend to
That's
be a
true.
Christian. I think
So
he,
that,
I
yeah.
think he probably is, but he's just like a really bad one.
Maybe he
Mm,
really believes in God, but he doesn't really believe in Calvinism, but he thinks Calvinism is a good troll.
Oh no,
Maybe
he would.
that could
I
be.
think he would. I think he would reject God before Calvinism, though.
no, it's he doesn't understand what Calvinism is, and he
Yeah, yeah,
twists
that's
it.
true.
No, he just does. He just twists it. He takes what, let's say, the greatest enemies of Calvin, like the Arminians and those in history, some Roman Catholics, have debated over the ages, over the last couple hundred years, have been debating John Calvin for, and it really tries to take and affirm and confirm the worst suspicions of what they thought Calvinism was, and when it's not, because what John Calvin represents as Calvinism isn't what John Lee presents. I don't even know that John Lee's read the Institutes, which is the systematic theology and framework of John Calvin's greatest systematic
So
theology.
maybe he's using Calvinism as a troll. That makes sense, right? He's misrepresenting
Right.
it by your lights.
Yes. Now you're getting what I think, but I don't really know for sure. But what I do know is he has some sort of working familiarity of it, where he can sort of pretend for a while, even fool Brian Dempsey for a while. But then when he says other things that are out of his mouth that are totally incompatible, totally contradictory, he lies to cover his tracks, then gets caught, and then is surprised.
Is that what's going
So
on, John?
is he here or something?
It's down in the audience. I
He's
just like
hiding in the
Take him under.
audience.
I
Take him
like
under
to
your
talk to
wing.
him sometimes when he's down there because it's just like it's
So, Shaw,
funny
you
to
gonna take him under your wing?
Who, me?
me.
Yeah.
No. He's way beyond my pay grade. He needs an elder
Have
in
you
his own.
prayed for him?
Yes, I have. A lot. And then I've just said, when Brian Dempsey came in, I probably started to care less for John, a little bit less. Not that I'm careless about him. I just don't care for him as much as a human being. I know that sounds harsh, because I see him as the lowest of the low lives. And he's a blasphemer, and he's a hater. And I was just trying to think, like, if I was one of the parents of Evaldi and I had to listen to the garbage out of his mouth, it could have driven me to pick up a gun and hunt that guy down.
Wow.
I mean, if I was just trying to imagine, if I was a parent of one of those kids in Uvalde. Remember when you were talking about how he was guiding the bullets into the heads of these kids? That's not the God I know, and it's not the God of Scripture, and that's not Jesus talking. Something quite evil and
Riveting
worse.
stuff.
What's that?
Yeah, I said riveting stuff there. I mean, I agree. But I told John, what, 2 days ago, John, was it? I said, John, he said, why? He said, when do you go away for, a month or two at a time and come back? And I'm like, well, there's other things besides Clubhouse and so forth. And I told him, I said, John, you need to get away at least for a little while, right? To kind of regroup and like ask yourself, like, where am I going here? But yeah, 2 days later, this is what we have.
No, look, I think Brian Dempsey said to treat him as an unbeliever, right? Treat him as a heretic is so worse than an unbeliever. He's a blasphemer. He's a twisted, sick human being, and he's demented. I don't know what other adjectives. I don't have it memorized. It was memorable, but nonetheless, we are. This is what the Bible says. When we do that, what Brian Dempsey did, this is what it's considered to be: handing over this person to Satan. We are handing them over to the devil. I don't even consider you guys the devil. We're handing him over to be dealt with the way he deserves. And what he deserves is total scorn and condemnation and not platforming. So I don't want to platform him. That's why I won't take him under my wing, Converse. I'm not going to platform the guy. I'm not going to give him a voice. I don't even really want to interact with him. I honestly am here for you guys and for other Christians who, like James is tired and these guys and even Matt. Johnny Haas, I don't understand what his deal is. Like, I thought he was a little bit smarter than what I've heard come out of him lately with the way he's been more an apologist for John Lee. But it seems to me James is tired, still takes umbrage somewhat with John Lee more and Matt more than what Johnny Haas does. So I don't understand what their deal is with each other. But I want those guys. There's James Tired is in the room. See, I'd rather they treat him in the same way that Brian Dempsey advised. Have nothing to do with him. Hand them over to the devil so that he's not eventually condemned and goes to hell, because he's certainly on his way to hell. So in other words, treat him as a prodigal son. Let him go. Let him go and dine with the pigs and the hogs and whoever else thinks like him. I don't know who else thinks like him. And eat from the trough of animals until he comes back to his senses, just like the prodigal son did, and comes back to the Father, turns away from his filth and his blasphemies and his way of living and his profligate living, and comes back and lives a truly transformed and changed life and is ready for that. Does anyone think that John Lee's even close to that place yet? I don't think so.
Amen. Hi, Rosalie.
Oh no, not Rosalie.
Hey, Rosalie.
Hi, hi everybody.
What do you think, Rosalie? I mean, I was telling, I messaged her and I thought she should know. I said we're all shocked, like floored, because he's been talking about this woman as his wife for a year, and it just comes out they're not married.
Yeah, I just joined after your message. Like, is it even true? I don't know what to believe
Confirmed
anymore
it.
about John Lee.
Well, he
It's so
confirmed it.
fantastic that you even doubt that it's true.
Yeah.
Like
I
many
mean,
of
if it.
us, Rosalie. Unfortunately,
Oh, sorry, I think I got
it
cut out. I mean, if it is
unfortunately
true.
it appears to be true, and John has said that it is true. So if he's not a fornicator, he's a liar.
Okay. Well, I'm not shocked if it is true. I was just saying to Heidi. He also, I think, admitted that he hasn't really been to church for 5 years. Like he said, he has only been to church a couple of times. That was actually more of a shocker to me than this news because he's been here claiming he's a Christian, but I I don't think you can be a Christian and not go to church for 5 years and then claim you're close with your elders in a way. And I don't know. I don't know what you guys are up to here though either. What's the deal? Are you guys still friends with him? Is he in the room? What's going on?
No, I
I was
mean,
just about
look,
to sleep.
Rosalie, don't get the wrong idea, right? I was never really friends with the guy, but I mean, we talk online and stuff. But I'm not going to not be friends with someone just because they're a fornicator, right? So I mean that it's in and of itself is not going to put John Lee outside of the circle of friendship. He's done plenty of deplorable acts prior to this, but I'm just amazed and a little bit it kind of rubs my craw, Rosalie, because this guy is going around looking for sawdust in people's eyes, and meanwhile he's got planks and multiple planks, right? In both eyes, right?
Wait, so I think I understood it wrong then. So there is a woman, he's just not married to her.
He's been with her for decades, almost 20 years. Yeah, there's definitely a woman.
But she
We've
could be
seen
like his
photos.
nurse or something.
No, we've seen him multiple photos. She's been on the phone. I mean, I think that's real. I think she exists. But
Could
they're
just
just
be a
not married.
roommate. They might not even be romantically involved. There might be some kind of fucking like.
I don't think so, dude. I mean, he tells really gross sexual stories about her. So.
Yeah, that seems consistent. Like he's
who knows
he's
what?
a freak. He's probably
sexual stories that within the confines of the sanctity of marriage are okay and a beautiful loving act between husband and wife, but outside of the sanctity of marriage, it's degenerate.
Well, look, I think you guys get the message. I don't know what would put him outside of the circle for you, Tom, but he's been a lying hypocrite at a
Just
minimum.
to quickly ask, who has Lisa M blocked here in the audience?
I don't even know who that is.
Lisa M.
I don't know who that is.
Yeah, Lisa M. Anybody
Get
here?
it?
I
She's
just
like a
checked.
nice
I don't know who that is.
Christian. She barely comes up to talk.
Oh, I bet it's Jack.
Jack
doesn't even come and talk on stage.
Jack,
Somebody that types.
Yeah, look,
Jack's quick on the
is
block.
Man, this is
Jack
a
had me
situation.
blocked for a
This
while.
this
Oh,
is definitely a
Sean, please
situation.
turn your
Look,
mic down.
this is a situation where
sorry.
anyone who wants to come in, Christian, atheist, Muslim, any kind of creed or denomination or whatever, this is the type of situation where if anyone wants to come in, publicly condemn and denounce John Lee for being the fornicator that he is and the hypocrite that he is, then look, we're gonna shuffle people around. So and so's like, okay, we'll get you in. We got time. We'll make you a slot, right? We'll figure it out, right? Because this is bigger than any of our blockings, right? This is about a fornicator amongst us, right? In our midst, walking around like he's a non-fornicator, but he's fornicating all the time, right?
Tom, could this be why John Lee doesn't go to church?
This could be, this could be a reason, right? How can you, when you're walking in a church and, the pastor is in his robe and everything and he's greeting everyone coming in, and you gotta look him in the eye as you're, hand in hand with your air quotes wife, when it's really just she's a concubine? And you're gonna take the sacrament and everything? Come on, dude.
Yeah, we've actually done a little bit of research of our own, Stace. We were looking at the Book of Church Orders, the BOC, like BCO rather. I'm sorry, just to see if there's any about censure and things like that. Um, and what it seems is it seems that John's out of accord with a lot of the things that we've been finding within this document. Can you tell us anything about this book of church orders? Is it authoritative? Um, is it binding to PCA communing members?
Yeah, so the Book of Church Order, and thanks for asking. I think that's why I agreed to come in the room, so I can answer questions about Presbyterian polity to the best of my ability, since I've read through the book and actually considered ordination for a while. Received an outward call, but I didn't receive the inward call, as it's called. So I just, in the end, refused the call. But as best as I recall and remember from it, yeah, his violation of it is, and its effect or its authorities, since you asked the question about how authoritative is it, it's not like it's seen as the Bible or anything close to it. It's not infallible. It's not inspired by God per se. But what it's used for is as a guide and as a rule, like a constitution, in a law book, if you will. It's like a law book for Presbyterians, and it actually is. It applies because more than one Presbyterian denomination has adopted it, so it applies to well over 10,000 churches in the United States as to how they're supposed to guide and organize their churches and deal with members who are out of line or who are in violation of commitments. And so there's a lot that's in the Book of Church Order for leadership, for pastors, for ministers, but also for the lay people and committees and organizing, and then also how often to meet in general assemblies where the whole denomination gets together as a national body even. So it gives a lot of guidance for that, and it includes when people go astray in their personal life, whether it's in doctrine, which is just your teaching, or whether it's in your life practice, like living in sin publicly, openly, and notoriously, like living with a woman that you're not married to would fall under that category, or living openly in any kind of sexual immorality. But notice in that verse that I shared with you guys earlier from 1 Corinthians 6, chapter 6, verse 9, at the top of the list of those who do not inherit the kingdom of heaven, they do not go to heaven, is fornicators.
Yeah, I'd like to just say briefly, just read from the Book of Church Order. I could just pull it up. You'll bear with me. It's chapter 59 on marriage, 59-1. The solemnization of marriage. Marriage is a divine institution, though not a sacrament, nor peculiar to the Church of Christ. It is proper that every commonwealth, for the good of society, make laws to regulate marriage, which all citizens are bound to obey insofar as they do not transgress the laws of God. And cited is Acts 5:29. I think that that's going to be kind of revealing as well. And I do feel betrayed that John has been referring to this woman as his wife, which maybe he has some idiosyncratic definition of this word. I'm assuming that's what it is. But yeah, I think the BCO is pretty clear here. And he is certainly not an obedient. He shouldn't be a communing member. I mean, that's any longer. So hopefully we'll um, you know, take care of that.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Yeah, that was pretty on point, and I think it's germane to the topic of marriage. But there's been a lot of upheaval in our society in redefinition of marriage and so on. But the Book of Church Order has been around a while. Like I said, we don't consider it a sacrament, although we do see it. Some people would say as a way of God showing grace to us is through the bond of marriage, because it's God's goodness to us, that He gives us to one another, that He found us a partner, that He found us a compatible person to complete us, and so that we might serve Him even better together, because we do see marriage as, like you said, a sanctified union by God and blessed by God. And because it was God's idea, we believe as Christians, to give us marriage. It wasn't just a mere social contract or convention, that its roots go all the way back to the beginning of time and recorded history. So, with human beings, so we really do lament and regret when it's broken, because the scriptures say God hates divorce, but He also hates fornication. He doesn't want people just to use one another like some sort of bag of protoplasm, some sort of biological exchange of material. We're so much more than that. And when you just reduce it to transactional, that's really the problem, I think, with society. We just see everything as just transactional, especially American culture. When there's a spiritual union and combination of two souls going on when someone is married, and the Bible even says it's mysterious. There's something mystical about it. I can't articulate. I'll fail to explain to you what does it mean that a man is joined to a woman. I don't completely get it, but Paul says it actually is a picture of Christ dying for the church, for humanity. When he does that, he says he's married to the church as his bride. So the church of Christ, which is every true believer, in a sense is married to God. And so there's a spiritual, mystical union that we can't fully describe. We don't lose our identity as individuals, but we also combine our identity with God as our creator in that um, divine marriage between God and those who believe in Him. Versus, and it is analogous to the same kind of union that a man and a half. You guys have seen the candle lighting ceremony, right? In a wedding, what that looks like. You each come at it with your own candle, and then you touch that central candle, and then now you have one candle. But you don't extinguish the flames. You still retain your identity. It's just you have something new and special in the union of your marriage.
I know this is like a star chamber for John and some grade A moralizing, but I just want to make clear, just because I'm holding John to like his hypocrisy, like I think I'm just as bad as John at some things, but not marriage because I'm married. But yeah, I just want to make that clear in case people are like, oh, you're trying to moralize him like you don't do anything. Obviously, that's not the case. But yeah, back to the moralizing of John.
Well, I mean, it's not so much that. I
Oh,
mean,
he's
I do understand what you mean, Converse, but it's more. It's not like we're saying, hey, look how good we are and look how bad John. It's just you have to point out hypocrisy, and this is an extraordinary example of that. And it's to no small degree. I mean, this is a big deal. He's been lying to us for the better part of a year or over a year, something like that. But yeah, surely it would be true to say that John is no. Um, more deserving than contempt than perhaps any one of us. I mean, who knows? But yeah, I do appreciate what that covers. But we've been looking at some of the actions that you can take by looking at BCO and just seeing how things are done um, um, as it seems to be as it's outlined in the BCO in terms of reporting offenses or um, uh, yeah. Well, I think you get the idea.
Uh-huh.
Daniel, are you are you talking about reporting this to his church?
Well, I didn't want to say that, but we were just looking into it to see what could be done, and um, because the text, the book of church order is like it's extremely like legalistic, so it takes quite a bit to read through it. But I hesitate, yeah, Rosalie, I hesitate to say that, yeah, we would report him, but we're certainly looking at that, and I just
Well, wait a minute. I thought that none of that was going to be necessary, that John was so bold to say, sure, I'll go to my elder and present all this information on my own. Don't worry about it. I've got this handled. It's a done deal. You'll see. And I was willing to, you know, donate $100 to charity, give $100 to Tom Rabbit's channel for bringing John to a place of repentance. But I thought it so unlikely. I thought my $100 was pretty safe. But I honestly would be happy to contribute both $100 to charity and $100 to Tom Rabbit's channel. I mean, if John Lee actually did provide actual receipts of submitting himself to his elders with even a modicum of the garbage that he spewed on here, so that, because I know what would happen with him and his status before his church. Now you've just added more fuel to the fire. I mean, it went from just a bonfire and you just threw like a propane tank on top, but there was plenty enough heat in the bonfire to throw John Lee on top.
But like, am I the only one that kind of thinks or understands that I don't think John has any status at his church, as he has admitted that he hasn't doesn't go to church like for the last 5 years.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
Well, he does claim that he goes to church and that he went to church like within the last couple months.
Well,
I don't
yes.
know about that, Sean.
Well,
Are you
Yeah,
sure
he
about that?
does. Yeah.
Because he told us he doesn't go, but that he wants to go.
yeah. Well,
When did he say that?
Well,
Am
that's a
I
pretty
am I
common
wrong
thing
here?
these
Like,
days.
can it like does anyone remember him talking about this? Like, remember he said he didn't go. Or he said he did go during COVID, right? Because his church didn't care.
I think that there was a live stream, Sean, but I do recall that him saying that he had been there within 5 months or something like that. I'm not quite sure, but I do know that he does watch the
Yeah.
live stream.
okay. What I did ask him one time is, "Are you a member in good standing with a local Presbyterian church in the PCA?" And he said, "Well, why would I tell you? But yes, I'm a member in a good standing of a church, but I won't say where." And I remember that conversation. It was quite a while ago, and then because I was wondering, like, who's he accountable to, and would they certainly aren't going to endorse this stuff, and so then. He needs guidance. I thought he needs spiritual oversight, but like what Rosalie's saying, if he doesn't attend a church, because what'll happen if you don't attend church for like a couple of years straight? Well, first they'll try to reach out to you, like, what happened to you? Did you move? Are you still wanting to attend this church? You know, because they'll expunge him from the rolls. They'll just remove him. He'll like fall off, and then if he is coming a couple times a year, and there is an elder that he's at least on speaking terms with, they might encourage him, hey, we would like to see you in church more, but it's not like, there's a Gestapo, an attendance, like a hall monitor. There's no one there that's usually, checking the box every month. However, there are some churches I know that do that, especially when they're trying to form their church, because they want some sort of reliability amongst members for financial support, so they can pay a salary to the pastor and keep the lights on in the building and the rest. So yeah, I think in terms of looking for a commitment from John, who knows what's true? And he says he goes to church, and then he says he doesn't go to church. Just to see that he made the claim that he would present all of the complaints and all the blasphemies and all the horrible things he said on Clubhouse, he would have no problem, I remember, presenting any of that to his elders, and would do so, especially should Brian Dempsey say there was something wrong with anything he taught, because he knew Brian Dempsey would agree with him and back him up. He knew that Brian Dempsey would be in his corner. In fact, he had just been in the room with Silver Star, and Brian Dempsey backed me up, not you, Silver Star. And I remember that because I was in the room with John and Rosalie and Brian Dempsey and Jess and a couple others. And they said, I said, yeah, John, you're not being honest about what it is you've really said and believe. And then Brian Dempsey's like, well, if you've got a video clip, do I have a video clip? John Rabbit's got a library full of clips. And I just sent him a link to the Amber Rose one. And then he asked me to provide him a time stamp. And I gave him like a 10-minute window, like around 1:30 to 1:40, somewhere in there. And there was plenty enough in there about Baby R that Brian's stomach probably turned. And that's when he made his statement about clip it.
Yeah, we do have some information about the presbytery clerk, and we have contact information. So it's not like we're not connected with people in authority who perhaps know John. Um, and I think that he belongs to the same presbytery as you once did, or still perhaps do. Um, and I think it's Pacific, but yeah, I think filing a complaint would be something. There's actually some forms in the BCO, and there's also contact information for the presbytery clerk. So I mean, there are things that we can be arranged very easily. But I just want to make sure that he is indeed out of accord with, you know, uh, the
Yeah.
teachings of this denomination, this church,
Yeah.
PCA, and I want to, and I want to know the procedure, right? So
Yeah.
I want to know the official procedure. So we are looking into BCO, and in a few chapters in particular.
Well, I don't want anybody here to think what you're doing is wrong, even as an atheist, because it's not. What you're doing is holding him accountable for the harm he's doing to others in the way that he misrepresents what we believe as Presbyterians. And so he's just a bad representative of our church and our faith tradition. That's number one. Number two, he needs help. And if he's going to get help, if he's able to get help, he may be beyond the pale. It would be someone who is a spiritual elder in his life, someone he respects. And by the way, when you become a member of a Presbyterian church, you make a commitment. You take a vow, actually, in front of the whole congregation. You say, I promise to submit myself to the oversight and authority of this church for correction. Should I be found to be in error in both doctrine, in either doctrine or practice of my faith. You make that, it's a value promise. It might just be simply entail a yes and a nodding of your head. Sometimes I'll just take that when the pastor asks a question when they receive you into membership. And that's it. It's not like a secret ritual or anything. It's just you would nod an affirmation to that commitment. Now, so that means he's broken a vow that he's made in public. So if he's not willing to submit to it, just like breaking, just like when people get divorced, it's so heavy because you're breaking a vow that you made before God, but also in front of your family and friends and your community. So that's why divorce has long-reaching consequences. It doesn't just affect
Speaking of
you.
John's spiritual elder, Johnny's down there. He came in. Maybe he wants to come up and
Yeah,
defend John.
yeah. I'm not honestly. Johnny Huss is kind of like he's not part of the Presbyterian system even. I don't think he quite understands Presbyterian polity, and I don't think he quite understands how spiritual oversight and discipline works, because I've heard him speak on the subject. And I don't think he really understands. I think he should read up. I think he might respect Dr. John MacArthur. Uh, Dr. John MacArthur has a sermon, I think it's titled Hand Them Over to Satan. And so that would be a good little sermon for Johnny Haas to listen to, because I think Johnny Haas does respect Dr. John MacArthur. He's not in our denomination, by the way. But I hope, Daniel, no one's giving you a hard time, like you're a heretic hunter, or you're just doing this as some sort of vendetta. You'd actually be doing the Clubhouse community a service, as well as my Presbyterian church and community. So because we need to seriously, we need to hold people accountable for the harm they do. What he's actually done, for example, think of the psychological harm. As I said, if you were one of the parents of the Uvalde victims, one of those children, and then you had to listen to this guy speak the way he did, And let's say you were in pain, and then it would just lead you to snap further. And I think Converse was in agreement with that. But he's doing harm. He does harm with what he says and does. He treats words as if they have no consequence whatsoever, like a LARPer does.
Yeah, he thinks Brian Dempsey was kind of like hoodwinked in a way. That someone got to him, and Brian Dempsey has limited information and presumably lacks discernment, right? But he said that Brian, he also was very critical of Brian Dempsey because there was some issue many years ago where Brian was an elder, and as far as I know, he's a Reformed Baptist. I don't know if he's since uh, become Presbyterian. I don't know the story, but he's been quite critical of Brian and Brian's um, falling from grace, so to say, briefly, you know. But what do you think Brian was he misled? I mean,
Well, first of all, that's an insult to Brian Dempsey's intelligence. Like, if before he was saying he thought he was the smartest guy on the app. So now the smartest guy in the app has been hoodwinked. By whom? By little old me? Or who else? Who does he mean?
yeah, that's what he said. You,
Oh, he meant me, of course.
yes,
Okay. So for the record, I didn't give Brian Dempsey anything or share with him any additional information other than what I told him I would right in front of John when John was in the room and could have put up a defense in that moment. I said, how about this, John? I'm just going to send that Amber Rose uh, video link from Tom Rabbit's channel. I'll just send that over to Brian. And John's like, yeah, go ahead. There's nothing in there I'm ashamed of. I stand by all of it. I said, all of it? Yeah, well, Tom Rabbit. He's a liar. He'll manipulate the clips. I'm like, John, it's an hour and a half or 2 hours or something more. It's all in context, John. What are you talking about? It's not Tom Rabbit snipping and editing clips of you together to make you look bad. It's you making you look bad. And then Brian's like, yeah, just send me whatever, but I'd rather not listen to a 2 hour clip. I said, okay, I'll make a little effort. So I went and found that little window. There was a lot actually in there that was just as bad as that 10 minutes. I just thought, 10 minutes should do the trick. 10 minutes should be enough. And it was. And that was it. There was nothing more. There was no additional hoodwinking. It was just sharing Tom Rabbit's video with Brian Dempsey. Just 10 minutes of it. Enough to get John's so-called respected mentor to turn against him. That's it. And it was his words that got Brian Dempsey to turn against him.
What is John's connection with Brian?
That's a good question. I don't really know. I in a sense, I thought maybe John spent more time with Brian Dempsey in Brian Dempsey's rooms than even I had, because Brian Dempsey just was started his own theology and apologetics. I think he called it Reformed Club, and I had a theology and apologetics group that was already prior to his, and so he started bringing a lot of my followers over into his room, which was fine. But I didn't go over into Laos because his was more randomly and more on different topics. But I think what John was talking about, and this is a way to, how should you say, gaslight someone that now you disagree with or hasn't supported you, to talk about Brian Dempsey's own past, to discredit him. It's like, oh, well, he used to be an elder, but he's not now. He stepped down in the midst of a scandal. So this is just his way of, being his old banana slug, slippery eel self. It's the tactic of a weasel.
Would John said that?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my
So,
god.
yeah.
yeah. Well, I'd like to add one thing. Oh boy, it was just on the tip of my tongue. Okay, yeah, I wanted to make sure that um, it wasn't merely okay. So there's this idea that John Lee is in accord doctrinally with the Reformed tradition. Um, um, yeah, but the problem people have is that he just go. They don't like the optics. They don't like the way he goes about it or how transparent he is about the doctrine, things like that. I just want to make absolutely sure that it would be true to say that the biggest offense you find is that he is indeed misrepresenting what you understand um, Reformed theology to be. And this isn't just about maybe some gaffes that he does or the way he goes about things, but it is true to say that he misrepresents Reformed um, theology and what it means to be a member of a Presbyterian church. Do you understand this distinction?
Yeah, actually, that's a good point, and that's I tried to debate. I was willing to debate John on all of this about what is Calvinism, what is Reformed faith, what does John Calvin actually teach on these issues, and he wouldn't agree to a moderated debate on it, and so I just thought, okay, he's a lightweight. He's definitely not serious, and that was a long time ago. And he says, "Why would I debate you? Why would I waste my time?" I
Did you
said,
know he's
"Well,
debating Tom Rabbit on the third Silver Star?
no, I didn't. Well, I'll be happy to give Tom Rabbit an assist on that if you'd like. I'll be a resource if you'd like. Um, because, see, John Lee does not represent, and this is exactly what Brian Dempsey said, does not represent the Reformed tradition, which is tied to Presbyterianism, which is also tied to Calvinism. But see, John Calvin didn't create Presbyterianism. John Knox, you could say, is the father of the Presbyterian Church of Scotland, where Presbyterian came from, 400 years ago. But what happened is people even early on in the early part of the Reformation were twisting John Calvin's words into a type of where our will doesn't matter, we're just robots, basically automatons, in a sense, and God is in a sense the author of evil in a sense if you follow it through its so-called logical extreme. But John Calvin himself said no, that this is not the way it's to be represented. God actually doesn't do any violence to our will because it has to do with causation. And so the difference in articulation of causation, which John Lee always fails to articulate, it gives the best explanation that we can have, because we do know, whether you understand it logically or not, it's besides the point, but we do know that God is not to be considered responsible for sin or the author of sin. We cannot be the author of sin or the cause of it or the approver of it. See, this is the problem with John Lee. He even goes, even this is how twisted is. He even said that God approves of these things where he
That's
doesn't.
right.
He
That's
takes
see
no.
that is truly is a distinction that I think in terms
Mhm.
of what he describes as God's desires for these
Right.
things to come about in the way that they do. So I mean, I don't know exactly what his view is. I wish that he would perhaps come up and have a discussion with you, but unfortunately, I don't think that'll happen because we could
Yeah.
hear two differing points of view on the subject. But it is true to say that John speaks about these acts in terms of um, pleasing God and so forth.
No, in fact, the scriptures are replete with examples of how much it displeases God, how much sin grieves God, how much he hates sin, how much he hates the evildoers who do these sins. See, a lot of Christians won't even go that far, but as the scriptures do speak this way, that God doesn't just hate sin, he also hates sinners, and especially the unrepentant sinners, and those who are blasphemers, and those who would accuse God as being the source of evil. God stores up his wrath for people like that. Those are called blasphemers who would ascribe God as taking pleasure in evil or as being the author of evil. See, those are the people that need to be careful the most, because see that, and that's why I think John is particularly vile, because you guys don't, you don't even believe in God, so why would you blame God, right? But here's a guy claiming to believe in God and yet ascribes God as taking pleasure and approving and guiding horrific activities of human beings against one another. And that is not the case. And Calvin was very clear about that unequivocally. And so there's no mystery as to what Calvinism teaches on these issues of how God can ordain whatsoever comes to pass, and yet take no pleasure and be displeased with evil and the unspeakable crimes of humanity against one another. And the way he talks about it so flippantly of these
Makes
horrific
your
things.
skin crawl.
Yes, like baby R. I don't even like saying it, putting those two words together. And then I don't know. And then Tom was really hurt. Honestly, Tom, it was like getting worse than nails on a chalkboard. It was like a knife in the ear. It was just when you were telling me all
Have you heard
the
the most recent thing he said?
I did. So no need to
Yeah.
repeat it. Yeah, Tom went to Dean and he sent me a clip on. You even timestamped it 41 seconds. It was
I would kick
awful.
puppies. I would kick puppies. I would kick puppies.
Amazing when that's the lightest of the things he said.
Yeah, it was really gross, and I just thought, well, this is the kind of stuff that should John go to hell, the hell that he says he believes in, will haunt him through eternity. I don't think
Yeah,
he's a believer. I don't think he's a follower of Christ. It's
John,
that
surely
simple.
you don't think that this is like something that you should do, just because oh my god.
yeah. The question I
Yeah.
have is, just how many air fresheners does it take to rid that horrifying Prius of the body odor of John Lee?
There was
And
some homo sex going on in there, in my opinion.
but
Wow,
you
you
can
guys
just
have got the whole
imagine.
soundboard for John Lee's soundboard going on.
Can you
Delano, you had
imagine
to
the
invest some
odor,
time.
and the stains
A
coming from
very
that?
a very specific odor.
Yeah, like he spends 16 hours a day cooped up in that Prius, lying to people about having a wife, right? So I think that someone would need a hazmat suit
I was
and
thinking the same thing.
a
Call
long
the
break,
county hazmat. They're going to come out in full rabbit gear, as it's called, head to toe.
toilet bowl cleaner, urinal cakes. I mean, I don't think anything would rid that vehicle of his foul odor and the foul color of his soul.
Feelings, nothing more than feelings.
He's a flatulent turd, and we all know this. And we hope that he does come around, and we're hopeful and
Right.
optimistic. Not
Right.
optimistic, but hopeful.
That's
Right.
that's the important thing.
Well, first, before he could ever be restored to Christian community, because he's not, as far as I'm concerned, he's not restored to any credible Christian community on Clubhouse. No one really wants him any more than they want Darth Dawkins around. And so he doesn't have real credibility. Like if you mention him to like the average Christian on Clubhouse, they're like, that nutter, keep him away from here. No one really wants him in their rooms. And it's just nice that you guys are willing, I guess it's nice, beat up on him like the pinata that he is to hopefully teach him a lesson. But he's not learning from you guys either. No matter how much you guys eviscerate him and excoriate him and pound him into oblivion with your arguments, because you guys do a pretty good job of that. But please quit considering him a Christian. I know you guys call him a Calvinist, but before you do that, read some Calvin. Read John Calvin, okay, so you can be a better judge of that.
But what do
And
we call him?
a heretic dog.
Okay.
He's swine. That's what the scriptures would call him. He's heretic. He's a heretic swine. He puts the hair in heretic. So just say at least someone appreciates my humor, Daniel. It's funny, like when even my own students don't. My humor doesn't catch on for like second semester. then it takes some time. But yeah, he puts the hairy in heretic, and he's just really gross. I don't know how else to put it. Biblically speaking, he would never have been taken seriously by Christ. He worse than a religious leader. He would have been like maybe the worst of the Pharisees and the Sanhedrin, who would have ultimately crucified Christ, because he certainly seems to get around in religious circles, and he's picked up enough scripture that he can regurgitate like his own dog vomit. But the devil does that too. He sure does. The devil quotes scripture to Christ himself. He had that kind of nerve.
Do you think that John is cognizant of like all the despicable behavior? Like, do you think he knows that it's wrong, or do you think he's like, do you think he's so depraved that he really doesn't even know?
Well, I've often wondered, like, does a really good pathological liar know that he's lying? Because the worst lies, right, are the ones we tell ourselves. Self-deception. It's the hardest one to recover from, because no matter what facts you're presented, you'll persist in it because you've believed it to be true, the lie that you told yourself. So in a sense, it would be like the devil believing that he's a victim and a good guy, and that God is the bad guy. So that's what the devil believes about himself, I think. And so that's why he continues on in this futile war, because he calls what is bad good and what is good bad. So the devil just
But that
always
would be really like, yeah, that would be.
the
So
twist.
the devil thinks he's the good guy.
Yes.
But if that's the case for John, then he's doomed, right?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah. What's interesting is that if you look at the numbers that he gets in terms of view count, the number of people that come into the rooms where John's speaking, I mean, it would be true to say that he has a greater reach than perhaps his own pastor. You know, he had a conversation with a celebrity, right?
That's
And who does have an enormous reach. I'm talking about several million followers on her Instagram and other platforms. And so he really is reaching a ton of people, this guy, you know, thousands and thousands. I would say maybe 50,000 views, 60,000 views, something like that, in that ballpark. So he's reaching more people than pretty much any Christian um, in our circle, so to say, or within this clubhouse community. He's that he's that um, viewed. He's viral. I mean, can you imagine if one of them videos goes viral where he's talking about fucking uh, God guiding bullets and shit? I mean, it's insanity.
Oh, I'm just.
I mean, it makes Westboro Baptist Church. It
I just
makes
got
Fred
back. I was
Phelps look
getting
like
something to eat.
yeah, it makes Fred Phelps look like Mr. Rogers. The shit he says. Just wait till one of those clips goes viral. But hey, if none of his community is going to
But
ring
yeah,
him in,
you.
What's that, Tom? You're cutting out, Tom.
I think he's moving around. He just got back from lunch. He said he's probably settling back into the mighty war chair where he sits and he war games.
Mic
Clipping
check
Eddie.
1 2.
Oh, there you
Yep.
go. You're
Yeah.
back.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. So sorry, I was getting something to eat, but I heard that you listened to the timestamp that I gave you, and yeah. So I described it as John Lee scolded me for not being, chop chop with the baby assault, and I just want to know if you thought that was an accurate description of what you listened to.
Yeah, like I said, it was very hurtful for me to listen to. I don't think you're trying to hurt my ears, but it was more than that. It's just beyond the pale. I don't know how to say it. It's just beyond the pale of what of any credibility whatsoever that he's just a decent human being, let alone a Christian or an unbeliever or an atheist. Like I said, plenty of atheists are decent and plenty of them are, kind of douchey, honestly. I can speak from experience, having been an atheist myself at one point, or an agnostic at a minimum. But look, he's just lacking common decency. And
Did you hear the part where I tried to explain to John? I was like, "Look, man, you can tell me it's a moral fact that this is good, fine, whatever. I understand that in the hypothetical. Look, I'm just not built to do that. I wouldn't be able to physically go through with the act." And did you hear the part where he basically implies, he doesn't outright say it, he just says that if I knew it was good, then God would make it so that I was able to do the deed. And I think we all know what he's talking about, right?
So
the guy's sick.
I'm telling you, look, the God he's describing would be, there's to be no other way to describe it, satanic. That is a God. So his God would be Satan in that sense. So that's how sick and twisted it all is. So in other words, he doesn't even give, before he even goes along with your hypothetical. So like anyone with a modicum of decency, they would not have even allowed you to present them that hypothetical. See, and that's the point. He lacks that kind of decency about him. So I'm with you. He's sick. I agree with you. Sick is a light characterization of it. He's demented. He needs help. That's way beyond your pay scale or my pay scale. He should be 50-51, in my opinion. Anyone out there hearing this who is related to him, file the paperwork. You can have the guy put away. And with enough of the stuff that has come out of his mouth. Still waiting for the highlight reel, Tom. Go ahead, do it, but put a
Well,
rated
now
M.
look, now I got it. Now I got another thing I got to add to it.
You do, but that's rated M. You got to put a rated M explicit warning
No,
on
this
it
is like
because
a NC-17. This is like a
right. Yeah, it is. So it would warrant that kind of rating. And honestly, I don't see how you can get away with putting that stuff out there on YouTube without it getting flagged. Don't you? You do have to put an explicit warning up there, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, I gotta like censor it or something. John Lee content is just so over the top, degenerate, and disgusting, right?
That's crazy. Even Darth Dawkins hasn't really had much of that, right?
Yeah, I didn't think anyone was as bad as Darth Dawkins, but John proved me wrong on that one.
John Lee is
Johnny Hawes is on stage. Has Johnny Hawes given his opinion yet?
Oh my goodness, no. I didn't, Johnny, I didn't want,
John Haas is going to get dragged into the mud through all this. Look, if John Haas even pretends to defend any of that stuff any more than he already has, he's just getting dragged into the slime. And that's my concern for Johnny Haas is he's losing all credibility.
Yeah,
who's going to want to buy his book now since he's defending John?
Johnny, listen, Johnny, you are not John Lee, okay? You are not John Lee, okay?
What am I allegedly defending?
No. He was he's just by association. That's all, because because one of the saints has said something's come to light. Just because you're one of the saints, it all kind of like
Well, you consider John a saint. Is that right? Something like, is that just a joke?
Yeah, I do.
You're a bit loud, Sean.
Oh, he doesn't know what happened yet.
John. So, maybe you're already aware of this because, like, amongst the saints, I know that there's this like close kinship, and perhaps you're actually already privy to this information. But for the rest of us, we just learned
Wait, Tom. Maybe before you tell him, you should like go through a line of things like what would push you over the edge with John Lee? What would make you say he's a heretic or whatever? And then see if he says it to the thing that John Lee's guilty of.
That's a good thought
Well,
experiment. I have to grant it. That's a pretty decent thought experiment.
well,
So
I mean, you can
I'm curious
try. It's
myself.
gonna be hard to get to heresy from there, though. But I mean, if you want to, you can go ahead and run it.
Well, I mean, why don't you just say it? I mean, what's up?
Okay,
What
I'll
am I
just say,
supposed to be
like,
defending?
look, like as I was saying, you got kinship. You probably already know this, right? But we, the rest of us, learned today that it is the case that John Lee's wife is not actually his wife.
It's just some woman he fornicates with.
They're not legally married at all. They're not common law married because that doesn't exist in the state. He just has a concubine / girlfriend for going on 20 years, 2 decades. He is
Just
not married.
one? Just one concubine? That's it?
That's it.
That was funny.
Yeah.
Oh, he's going to have a concubine. Why not at least 10 or 20? I mean, come on.
Right.
I mean, so that's the big deal that.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, I mean,
he's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. You probably already knew because you're one of the saints, right? I mean, you probably already knew.
Well, I became aware, not long ago. I've been out of signal range. So I haven't really been listening to what's been going on. But is that what this is all about, John?
Well, the
is
only
not a
bad thing
Christian?
about it, Johnny, is that he just continually lies to us and try to portray her as his wife. His intent is to make us think that he is like ceremoniously married.
So how
Yeah.
did you
Well,
find
I mean,
out?
Well, that's not important. I was under the assumption he was married myself, but I mean, the thing is this another? Let's see how virtuous we are compared to John Lee. I mean, I don't really.
Oh no, it's just funny that he lied to us.
No. Make no mistake, Johnny Haas. We are not virtuous at all. We're godless, atheist heathens, right?
Heathens, communists, heathens.
Yeah, but what does that have to do with John Lee being a heathen when he's supposed to be the one that's virtuous? He's supposed to be the one who's regenerate. He's the one who's so regenerate that he wouldn't do certain things because the Spirit of God has changed him and transformed his soul to regenerate it, so he wouldn't even have a desire to do some things like this. But yet, he's one of the worst fornicators of all. Isn't he?
Also, Johnny, before you call us fornicators, I want you to hear what he told us this morning.
Well, if you must know, it was such that there was something up my butt and it was like moving and it caused me to have an erection.
Wow.
What do you think of that?
I don't know. Is he having some sort of procedure at a medical clinic somewhere? I mean, I would just have to know the context of that. But
that was a dream he had last night.
Well, why isn't John up on stage right now, sort of defending himself? I mean,
he attempted.
Johnny,
he's been invited.
Aren't you guys going to have some drastic theological differences now? Because he thinks it's okay that he's fornicating with this woman.
Where'd Silver Star go?
Tom, how did you guys find out about this?
Someone.
It was revealed.
Well, I found out because someone asked him in the voice, and he confirmed it. That's how I became aware of it.
well, I'm not sure there's a theological difference. I don't think it would be the case that John is saying, like, for example, I mean, I've told lies before, but it's not the case that I would say lying is not a sin or it's okay to lie. So that's not really a theological difference based on his view of that. I don't think. I think he would believe that it's better to be married. So that's
just
really
funny
not
because he presents himself as holier than thou regarding these issues, Johnny.
Johnny, can you explain the term living in sin?
Yeah, it just means you're committing sin, and I guess some would say it's probably blatant. I guess you might say. Is it something that is good for the Christian to be doing? Well, I would have to say no. But at the same time, I think a lot of people, and I've made the mistake myself, very quick to look at someone and measure what they think is virtuous against themselves, perhaps, and say, well, because they're doing X, Y, and Z, they are therefore not a Christian. I've made that mistake saying that about others as well. But what does it mean to be a Christian? That's really the question. Does it mean you're perfect and you're never going to sin again? Well, no. Now, Scripture does talk about practicing sin. Some people still struggle, but nonetheless,
Let's ask you
as
a real
far as
quick
I'm
question,
concerned,
because we're not questioning whether. Well, I mean, like we're just kind of like, look, is he a fornicator?
I guess per the definition of that, I would assume so. If that's the case, if he's involved in some sort of sexual relation with a woman that he's not married to, I think that would constitute that.
Okay.
But is
And
that
he
the
thinks he's
question,
above
or
the
is the
law.
question?
He thinks he's above God's law because he thinks this is okay.
Well, I don't know. Does he think it's okay?
Yeah.
Must do. He never married her.
Well, that doesn't necessarily mean he thinks what he's doing is okay.
Well, then
He
you could
said
fix it.
he says that he considers themselves married. They're like he thinks that they're effectively married.
Also, when
Therefore, it's
confronted
no
about it,
problem.
his first reaction was try to lie his way out and say he was common law. So he's clearly feeling some kind of guilt.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to hear John speak on the matter too. I mean, there's always two different sides to a story there. But
He's been invited.
yeah, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, when I look at people to determine whether there's any indications of a person being a Christian or not, I look at who they say Jesus is. Now, I realize the scriptures do talk about fruits of the Spirit, things like that, but I'm not looking so much for perfection, but I do have a tendency to look at what they view when it comes to sin. Is it just sort of some flippant attitude about it, or what? So there's many things to take into consideration, of course.
I mean, look, homeboy can be a Christian still, but like, look, we're gonna sort this fornication thing out first, right?
Well, you say he could be a Christian. Now, I think I was listening to a little bit of what Silver Star was saying. I think Silver Star doesn't believe he's a Christian, but this doesn't. He believed he wasn't a Christian prior to this thing here, though, right? From what I understood.
Yeah,
So
probably.
this may somehow give Silver Star some support for his his critique of John Lee, but I think Silver Star believed he was already a heretic prior to this thing.
I mean, Johnny, do you here's the defense given by some of the Christians. Do you think that because sex is like the consummation of marriage, that just the act of having sex and being with one person, being monogamous but having sex with them, do you think that's the same as a marriage in God's eyes?
Well, when we speak of marriage, I mean, we usually speak of it in a legal fashion. Common law, you're with this one person, you're committed to this one person. Um, it still may very well constitute as marriage in God's eyes. There's debates about that actually, based on what Scripture has, especially even in the older Testaments, things like that. So it actually can be debatable. This is just a legal sense of what the government is involved with. But if the government is not involved, does that mean a person cannot be, one with another woman in this case? I think there's some biblical references that says that they actually can. So again, it can be debatable.
Well, I think at the very least you'd have to have some sort of church blessing or ceremony, wouldn't you? Even if you didn't want to get the government Because you could say God doesn't care about the government stuff, right? But wouldn't he care about the church performing some kind of vow ceremony in front of your community? Wouldn't he care about that?
I mean, yeah, there's some credence to that, of course, but I think it was even in the early parts of the Old Testament, a man would consider a particular woman that he is committed to his wife, but there was no legal ceremony, and there wasn't even a church at the time. So again, it's actually one of those issues that can be debated. I think a lot of people are quick to write it off because they didn't go through some sort of legal ceremony that had the government involved with it. So is the government? I mean, I realize the government, that the governing authorities have been established by God, is what Scripture teaches. But is the government determining what is constituted as being one with a woman? Again, it's
I don't
actually
think people are
debatable.
appealing to the government, Johnny. He could have simply went to his church and said, "Please bless this union," right? But he didn't do that.
I think it would have probably have been better if he did, sure. But again, I think maybe this is just some sort of alcohol to fuel Silver Star's fire that he has against John Lee, but he already had that prior. But see, I've had a conversation with Silver Star before. I've had private conversations with Silver Star on this, and he definitely has some problems, some personal issues with John that I think go beyond just this whole. Oh, I don't like the way he represents Calvinism on Clubhouse. I think there's something more to that. But there has been some accusations that have been made before that I've actually challenged, and the challenges that I've brought seem to be found wanting, in my opinion. I tend to think it's more of a personal issue. That look, I've had some issues with some of the things John has got involved with in these conversations, entertaining some hypotheticals that I don't think he should, stuff like that. But it's not a personal, it's not really personal there. It's just a matter of wisdom, I think, and some sound advice. But what I think Silver Star is doing is he has something more personal with John that I can't really put my finger on as to why.
Toast, what do you think? You're a Christian, apparently. You've struggled with fornication. What do you think about John Lee? Brazenly shacking up with his girlfriend for decades.
Hey, why do you think Toast struggled with fornication?
He has a girlfriend that he tries not to have sex with us. I don't know. Maybe I'm confusing him with someone else.
No, he did struggle with fornication.
Yeah.
I don't know if struggle was
just with my girlfriend, but yeah.
Hopefully
Oh,
she did.
good for you, Toast. I didn't know.
But anyway,
I might be
Christian. Can you weigh in, please, as a Christian?
I think I might be guilty of the same accusation levied against John Lee currently. So I don't know if I'm the best person to ask.
Yeah, but you repented, right? You didn't do it again, or you tried not to.
Yeah, I haven't. I haven't done that since 8 or 9 months, something like that. But
well, apparently, according to a bunch of Christians we talked to tonight, you can just shack up with her right now and just call her your wife, and it's all good and it's biblical. What do you think of that?
Yeah, obviously I don't support it, but I guess considering John Lee's age and probably prior predicaments he's been to later in his life, he's had a very sounds like a very unstable life personally from the rumors I've heard. But I guess I'm not really all too surprised that he didn't decide to go through the marriage process and the vows and just kind of in limbo, so to speak. But I mean, I guess it's still commendable. It's one woman, he's been committed to her and staying with that. So I don't know. There's a lot of different scriptures here that Johnny was referring
Look,
to.
if you want to criticize Christians, look, if you want to criticize Christians, there's a lot to go around because there are people that are indeed legally married that still have issues with lust. I think I remember reading a report. It's been a while, but I think the data was showing that at least half the men in church are addicted to pornography, and that's the ones that admitted it. So I would say it's probably more than half. So there's plenty of criticism to go around regarding the virtuous married man, so to speak. I mean, I'm not discounting it. I'm not saying, oh, because you have so many, oh yeah, big deal. No, it's a big deal, but this is something relegated to John. There's many Christians that struggle with all sorts of issues that, again, I'm not too sure for myself that I should be quick to say they're not Christians because I've made many mistakes by saying that before too, and I think I did so in haste. So that's why I'm a little careful. Now, some would say, yeah, you're saying that because you're friends with John Lee. Could you say that about another Christian you're not so friendly with? And again, I've made mistakes by doing that, so there is probably some bias, but nonetheless, I think I need to be a little more careful with being hasty.
Are you legally married to your wife?
Yeah.
I thought you were single.
Who, me? No. Been married for some time now.
Well, if you must know, it was such that there was something up my butt and it was like moving and it caused me to have an erection.
Yeah, John, this is not the time, man. Come on, man.
John, did you have to talk about that? Like, what the?
Seriously, John.
Yeah,
I mean,
John,
like,
we don't need to hear that.
seriously?
Silver Star's gone. Why isn't he coming up?
I don't know why he keeps bringing it up. I don't get it. Like, okay, you had an anal dream. Like, let it go.
Yeah, seriously, dude.
What do you think about Silver Star, Johnny?
I think a lot of boyfriends and girlfriends these days who are living together they just need to be signed off and blessed by the church. They just need to say, hey, as long as the mom and dad are cool, both parties are cool with it and whatever, it's fine. They're as good as married. It's fine. No big deal.
I don't know Silver Star that well, Sean. I mean, I've had some private conversations with him. I've been in some rooms with him, on stage with him. I don't think he has much. I don't think he has many issues with the doctrine. Um, but that's a sample size because again, I don't hang out with him that much. But I've never really heard him try to take me to task on something that he finds to be outside of doctrine or unbiblical or any of that. But he has had some issues again with John before, and I think he does have some scathing remarks about John, and he's made some statements before that I think he's being a bit hasty too, and I've contacted him about it. We've had discussions about it, and I've challenged him as well. But as far as personally speaking, I don't have anything personally against him. Now, Silver Star was saying something about John needs to be put away. Uh, what exactly? What exactly does he mean by that?
I don't know. Maybe he wants to box him.
like just reduced to being, irrelevant to the point to where no one associates with him anymore, or he's going to try to, or he would like to see his church sort of excommunicate. I mean, I don't really know what all he means by that, but
I'd like to see him arrested.
Arrested?
No, not arrest. No, no.
For what? Answering crazy hypotheticals that then gives Tom a lot of meat and drink to use against him. Well, if that's the case, yeah, he probably should. I take that back. Yeah, he should. No, I'm just kidding. But if that's what Silver Star was meaning, which I kind of doubt it, but I don't know what it would be for, on what charge. So I don't know. That's a question for Silver Star to answer, I guess.
What do you think about the fact that John Lee has been lying all this time about being married? Do you think that's a sin?
Well, yeah, lying is a sin. I was under the assumption that he was married. I just assumed that was the case. But I never really went in details and asked him about it. But I just assumed that was the case.
But you don't think there's anything particularly wrong about like telling such a sort of big lie for such a long time?
I don't think Johnny thinks he was lying. I think Johnny's signing off on the whole idea that Johnny is married in the eyes of God, that John is married in the eyes of God.
Well, if that was the terms that John was speaking about, then okay, I can see that based on what he thinks it means to be married. Now, colloquially speaking, yeah, we understand that is something to do with the government being involved, making it legal. But perhaps he does see it in such a way that, for example, there are some Muslims that they too believe that they are married according to the eyes of God, although they're not legally married. So perhaps that's the way he's looking at it. I don't know, but if he was saying that he is legally married and he is really not, he's lying about it. Well, yeah, that's lying is wrong.
So men and women moving in with each other, as long as they're committed to each other, shouldn't be a problem for the church.
Some churches are very, very strict. Presbyterians can be that way. Some other churches can be that way, and then some are, it depends on how they look at marriage.
Aren't there rules about this? Like in the Bible, doesn't it say you have to like go before a priest or something?
That's actually a good question. I don't recall exactly, but the establishment of marriage, as we see in the Bible, the government has also, I guess you could say, codified that into their structure, especially being one man and one woman, the unity, the nuclear family, all of that. That's sort of a legal thing here again with government involvement. But I think there can be arguments made. I'd have to go back and look because I haven't really argued that. I don't think ever, but I do think there can be arguments made for a biblical view of the way God would see marriage.
I mean, marriage is like prescribed, and I don't know all the specifics, but it's sort of a big deal, don't you think?
It's a big deal ceremoniously, of course, but I think in Scripture, for example, Eve was considered